Melby Schmelby, we've got Kelby. It's Hotline League episode 72. Boy, are things spicy. We just got off of a crazy best of 5 finals in St. Louis. We're back. There was a live Hotline League. We could spend half this show talking about the last show. That's how crazy it was. There's a $100,000 bet. I don't even know if that's legal. It probably isn't. Any law enforcement that wants to call it and talk to us about that, that would be great. Let's see, what else? We got MSI coming up. It might be a little bit early to talk about it, but we could. Did you like that Sven made a height joke about Jensen, or was that 2BM?
Yep.
We're excited to hear your thoughts. But a quick shout out right now to Alienware. I just got back from St. Louis where we had the sickest event ever. Not LCS Finals, but Hotline League Live, and that was because Alienware supported that, so thank you so much to them. We're going to be talking more about them later on in the show, and I have a special surprise when we get to that. But nothing for you guys, but definitely something for me. Either way, let's get into the show. Mark, how you doing?
Doing good. Got in late last night. My flight had a lot of problems, so I didn't land until like 9 p.m. PST. Pretty tragic.
Yeah, a bunch of you guys got delayed, right?
Yeah. Some people had their flights canceled and pushed back.
Did you already have Game of Thrones spoilers by that point in time?
Well, I have never seen Game of Thrones, so people couldn't spoil it for me if they wanted.
Well, yeah,
that's just impressive. Man.
You're definitely that type of guy. How's this past week been? How was finals for you?
Finals was pretty sick. I think, I was in St. Louis, which is okay. I enjoyed the food that I did get there. There wasn't like a ton else to do, but all the other like side events I did were really cool. And because there wasn't a third, fourth place match, I was only actually there for 3 days. So the finals was sick. Hotline League was sick. Even the dive was pretty cool.
I like how you rank. Yeah, that's the right. That's the correct way to rank it.
I said even the dive was pretty.
I know,
cool.
that's what I'm saying. I like.
Yeah.
It's good. Although I wish that you hadn't started off Hotline League by throwing the dive swag into the audience. I think that was not a classic.
I thought that was hype as shit.
I really need to sign some sort of contract with you.
Well, if you made some merch for this show that I could throw into the crowd to get the crowd hyped, maybe I wouldn't need to throw other competing shows.
We gave everyone free alcohol, 2 free beverages.
I can't throw beer bottles into the crowd, dude.
Yes, and that people didn't get that at the dive. All right.
No, they got those little foam coffee cups. Who really won?
Yes, exactly. All right. Kelby is making his triumphant return because he finally decided to watch some League of Legends.
Yes.
And so he's finally able to talk. Kelby, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
How's the past 3 months of your life been?
Really good. I moved to Southern California so that we can hang out now and for work and stuff. It's really nice. It's super great being back in SoCal. And I'm very excited because the Prophet and the Warlock DLC for Total War Warhammer 2 releases on Wednesday. Let's go.
Yeah, let me see if I can get that early. Oh, Kelby May's Giggle is back. Just subscribe with Twitch Prime. I feel like I haven't seen them for a while.
Resub.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
What was the...
I'm going to spend this whole show trying to listen to it.
What was the... It's painful. What was the finals like for you, Kelby?
It was good. I was really feeling kind of bummed out after game 2 because I felt like, well, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, but like, I felt like game 1 they really easily could have had, and then game 2, but then, it kind of started to turn back, and then halfway through game 5, Brittany and I were obligated to go to a dinner party, so we were in the car essentially using Twitch as on my phone as like an audio cast, and Brittany was like reading the stats to me while like Freak and stuff were commentating. I was like, I don't need to read it, just let me listen, I can tell what they're saying by the action. And then, but yeah, then we won, and I could it was very satisfying because I was scared, but essentially like when I got into the car and started listening in is when they started to make their turn, so I'm taking a lot of credit for the game 5.
Right, that you got in the car watching. You got in the car, and then you hear Sven's getting caught out right now, and you're like, here we go.
Kelby's bad juju. You had to stop watching.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well. What? Mark?
I had a question, Travis. When do we talk about the mods? Is that going to be a beginning of the show, but just between us, or is it we're going to wait for someone to try and call in?
How I feel like it's so
What do
weird
you
to
wanna
start the
talk about?
show.
Wait,
That's
the
how I
subreddit
felt.
mods?
Yeah, I felt
Mark,
like we
Mark
should talk
wants
about
to
the
go on a
finals
Reddit mod
first.
rant. You know, once
Whoa,
every
whoa,
3
it's not a
months, a
rant.
different
This
league
is
figure.
an age-old classic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Every 3 months, a different League of Legends figure decides it's their time to take the throne and decry the tyranny of the League of Legends mods, and it's Mark's turn right now.
Previous ruler was Kelby when they removed his crying post.
Well, he didn't even do that. He just said like, "Hey, where did it go? I got deleted, I guess." And then people were like, he was like the Joan of Arc. You know, he was just died. He was the martyr.
He went to the League of Meta like thread where they go to die.
Yeah.
The actual threads, and he posted that, and I think he said like, "How is this not relevant?"
Well, okay, so now we're talking about it. Why don't you just do it now? Because I feel like
No,
we're
I mean I don't feel like it's appropriate given that the finals just happened. That seems like a bigger deal.
Mark,
Okay.
can you move your cam up now that your cat is gone?
Why is this not as
it's
attractive?
just a crotch shot.
It's just it's just like your torso.
Yeah.
It's also like it just fades to
I feel
black.
like
I
that's
actually
when
don't have a
Alienware tunes
crotch.
in and they're like, "What is this show? Why are we spending money on
Has
this?"
anyone actually ever seen my crotch? Because it's always behind a desk, or now like it's just this black pit.
You see that as if it's like, actually, a lot of people have been asking for this, and I'm happy to finally give it to them. No, probably no one has seen it, and I don't think that's something they're supposed to have seen, Mark.
You know what I just realized, Mark? Oh, it's cropped by his cam, but he still has that poster in the background that looks like the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a great poster. Go ahead.
Anyway. Again, they're like, why do we sponsor this? All right, so, well, should we talk about the finals in detail before we get the calls going? I think we can have like an overarching thing. Kelby gave his opinion. Mark, what did you think of the finals? Is this like the best finals ever?
I think it probably was. You know, the fact it's a reverse sweep, the amount of storylines going into it, you know, the fact that it was so close, even game 5. I mean, like, we've had some close 5-game series before. Like, I think the other submissions, if I was going to, like, put the submissions, it would be 2014 summer when Wild Turtle crit his face off to win. It'd be 2015 MSG, just because even though that series wasn't that close, it was CLG's first win.
That was pretty sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was less about the series and more about the moment because the series wasn't really that good.
Yeah.
And then I would probably say, what was it, 2017 spring, the Vancouver one? Or was it the Toronto one? Which was the one where
2017 spring was when Peter took the split off and Wild Turtle was there in Vancouver.
No, okay, so it wasn't that. It was whichever one had the Lucian culling. You know, that 5-game series?
Oh, was that Toronto 2016?
I forget. Which was the 5-game series where Jensen didn't Zonias? No, that was 2017 spring, wasn't it?
I forget. Whatever. Anyway.
I don't know. The 5-game series between TSMC9 would probably be my fourth submission, with this one rounding it out as well.
This is why people watch Listen Loco, by the way, because you'd have Thorin here being right now. Oh, yes, that was right after the camera had the shot of the person who accidentally spilled their popcorn, and then you immediately saw this shot and this shot and this shot. He'd be saying it with a British accent, but yeah.
Right.
We're just like, what was that again? That was in Toronto? I don't.
Anyways, my point is this one was really good, and I would probably say number 1.
Yeah. I thought it was pretty sick.
I was actually a little concerned for Game 5. I thought Game 5 was going to be a snoozer because of how good TL looked in Game 4. Yeah.
Oh, you thought going into Game 5 that TL was just going to sweep in the 5th game?
I thought they had figured them out because Game 1 and Game 2 had really weird draft things. Game 3 was close, but then they were starting to figure them out. In Game 4, TSM looked rattled. They were playing bad. They were getting killed all over the place, and it was kind of a slaughter. So I thought Game 5 was going to be like Game 4, but then it turned out to be that crazy comeback. So
yeah, I thought that game was over, especially because it's funny. Azale was really pushing, the first dragon, Infernal Dragon. Azale's like, this could be it. I mean, if they get this, it could be all over. And I was like, oh, okay. I believe you, Azale. You're much more knowledgeable. And then the second Infernal Dragon hit, and he's like, yeah, this is it. If they get the second Infernal, they just outscale. It's done. And I was like, well, I'm interviewing probably not interviewing TSM and at MSI because they don't do too many interviews. But But then TL ended up taking that. What do you did it all really pivot on the Sven thing? Like, I'm actually, I certainly feel that way, but I'm curious, Mark, if you feel that way, because if you can confirm it, because I feel like everyone wants to point at that single moment, and it does seem like that was it.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, to Azael's point, like, yeah, TSM is in the driver's seat and probably wins that game like 80-90% of the time, just with the advantages that they had at that point. The Sven throw was pretty bad, and then TL still outplayed him a number of times. I don't think like the decision making by TL was super good either. Like, they got a Baron buff, and then instead of like trying to push with their lanes while they have Baron or something, they just like hovered around Elder Dragon for 3 minutes, which doesn't benefit them at all because they only had one like Elemental Drake. So there was a lot of things that TL wasn't doing super well, but their comp was like coming online, and then they started playing better as a team from then on. So I think the fact that the Sven mistake gave them enough breathing room to then actually outscale was pretty huge. So, yeah. I mean, it's true, you know, like TSM could have won any of those other games. There were mistakes in other games, but like that was the last mistake they could have like afforded to give up, and that's when it happened. So, you know.
Also, do you think do you think that series was good or bad from a gameplay perspective? Because I tweeted out afterwards feeling like, you know, from my limited analysis perspective, the game seemed really good and intense, and there were a lot of really great moments where you saw players doing really impressive things. But there were a lot of people being like, man, we are so screwed. There's so many mistakes on both sides. Maybe it was entertaining, but that was just poor play. I'm curious what you think.
I mean, a little bit of both. I think it wasn't like I was just saying, there were some macro mistakes. I think some of the draft decisions they made were pretty bad. Like, I thought their answer to Tarek Sona was absolutely horrible, and I was talking to the TSM coaching staff a little bit afterwards too, and they were laughing about Ash Zyra as the answer. So I think there's like some things that wasn't great, but I thought mechanically it was actually a pretty well played series, and I think a lot of the other regions have had series where you can see their top teams doing boneheaded stuff. Like OG looked like a bunch of 12-year-olds out there, and Griffin looked like a bunch of chokers. So you can say, like, in those other finals, like how good were those really? You know?
Yeah. Well, why don't we get into? Oh, go ahead, Kelby.
I was just gonna say, I hope the level of play was high, because I felt like that was the most entertaining series of League I've watched in a while.
Well, you haven't watched very much in a while.
Right, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I think it wasn't like I'm gonna sit there and be like, I was stunned at like the level of, like, you know, it wasn't Rocks versus SKT where you're just like, my God, these are two of the best teams we've ever seen, and they're on point. You know, I think this series did have its mistakes, but it wasn't like we're screwed. We look like idiots.
Well, let's get into the calls, because we've talked enough about this. Mark, do you want to explain how this works?
Yeah, so if this is your first time watching, it's probably not, so I don't know why I'm saying this again, but hey, it might be. And if this is true for you, this is for you. I'm spamming Twitch chat with the Discord link. You're going to go ahead and click on any of those I just put in there. When you get here, you're going to join Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls 2 voice channels. Once you're in there, you can mute your microphone, and in the Pleb Topics text channel, you're going to go ahead and post whatever it is you want to talk about. You think Team Liquid's going to do good at MSI, or you think Team Liquid's going to suck at MSI?
I would suggest I mean, I don't mind one or two MSI questions, but or topics, but because we have like 2 more shows to do, I feel like we should.
Okay, fair enough. Talk about the finals then. You thought Team Liquid looked bad. You thought Team Liquid looked good.
I mean, you can also talk about MSI a little bit
differently. But either way, you post your topic. If I like it, I will pull you down into the waiting room where you will hang out until it's your turn. I'll come in. We'll do a quick mic check.
Okay. And if you are a sub, by the way, first off, thank you for being a sub. Really appreciate it. Helps out the show. Helps out me. But it also lets you, if you sync with Discord, get access to the subtopics channel, where you can hang out and put your topic there. It moves a little slower, so it gives you a bit of an advantage. Regardless, as Mark is going through and getting some people. I want to give some shout outs to some subs. Speaking of subs, Icy Decay, Craig Yorger, Coco Kanja, PFizz101, Lulzatron, BD Bropst, St. Louis Slayer, who hit 12 months and who I also met and was on Hotline League Live. Lovely gentleman. He called out Thorin on our show. It was great. Bob6471, Sham, Ribbon Chew, Davros26, Profrib, and then Kyle0808, who has been a fanatical supporter of the show with his credit card account. Had subbed with 10 or gifted 10 subs. Incredible individual and very much appreciated. Mark should be getting our first caller here.
It's going slow, dude.
Yeah. Put some topics in, everybody. Don't put questions in. Put topics in.
Well, hold on.
We want to get some good shit.
I'm going slow, not the. Sorry.
Get it together, people.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't mean them.
Yeah. Kelby, did you get a chance to talk to Peter yet? Did you congratulate him?
Can you hear the honking in the background, or is that not picking up?
It's not picking up.
Oh, thank God. That's super loud.
Is there like a car alarm going off?
Yeah. No, I haven't talked to Peter since he got back. He keeps messaging me on Skype, and I'm like, dude, I don't check Skype. But he doubted me, man. The first message I got from him that night after he won was, did you watch the whole series? And I was like, what the hell? You're the only reason I watch League of Legends. Yes, I watched this.
Here's our co-host for the night, everyone. Really?
What? I mean, hey, you gotta have a reason to keep coming back. Everybody's got their reasons that they watch League. I don't play the game anymore, but I really enjoy following Peter and watching.
Yeah.
And the games were really entertaining, actually. I was thoroughly.
I don't know. We have enough to start. Fuck it.
Mark always brings the hype to the show.
Fuck it.
Somebody in chat says, Kelby. Oh, Super God says, is Kelby related to Ovely? And Ovely replied and said, I'm his aunt. Is that true? Is Ovely your aunt, Kelby?
Considerably older than Ovely, right? So.
Is it possible it still doesn't mean that you can't be, or she couldn't be your aunt?
Well, isn't an aunt my mother's sister?
Yes.
So how could she be older than me and be my mother's? Oh, I guess you're right. So like that would be interesting.
Yes.
Very difficult.
Yes.
And rare, but technically possible.
Yeah. You need to work the age there. Mikey is here. Mikey, where are you calling from?
Chicago.
Oh, you're loud. I'm going to turn you down. You've been on the show before.
I have been before, yes.
And I had to turn you up before, so now I'm turning you down because whatever audio issue you had has now been solved.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. You not flamed me. You said I was from Chicago because of my accent that I apparently had, but...
Mikey, can we just put things behind us?
Yeah.
Did I defend you? I feel like I defended you for not
No, yeah,
sounding
you
that.
did. Yeah, you 100%.
All right, whatever. Let's just move. This was a long time ago. Mikey, did you go to the finals this weekend?
No, I did not.
Okay. It was in the Midwest. You're in the Midwest. Why didn't you go?
5
Yeah,
hours
half fan.
travel.
We met people who went 8 hours.
True.
What do you want? What do you want to talk about the show?
Any truers in the chat? No, I'm just kidding. It's either Mark. Which one did you want me to talk about? Broken Blade or the Skarner pick?
I think I picked you for Broken Blade.
Okay. So one of the topics I want to discuss is Broken Blade. He absolutely played out of his mind. And with the loss, I felt like the player of the series was Doublelift, but he didn't deserve it. If there could be a player who didn't get who lost the game, didn't get player of the series, it should have been Broken Blade. His game 1 and game 2 were absolutely amazing, and then that Vladimir game in game 3 or 4, with that one Syndra, Jensen, absolutely beautiful stun, but other than that, play, Broken Blade was absolutely spectacular. He clapped Impact too. I just think Broken Blade deserved player of the series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's gotten one in a losing series yet, so kind of hard to give it to him. But I do.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say, I think I mentioned it on the desk, but he was definitely gonna win player of the series if TSM won. I thought he looked real good.
Yeah, he seemed to that was one of the things I asked in the press conference was to Impact. What was it like playing against Broken Blade? Because it seemed like it's easy to forget that Broken Blade is new to North America is, you know, if the rules were slightly different, would be rookie eligible, and it just feels like he's really good and has been part of North America for a while. It just felt like he integrated seamlessly, which is pretty remarkable given the amount of times that a player has taken a while to get his feet underneath him whenever he comes to North America for the first time. So I thought it was really impressive what he was able to pull off, and like, damn, the amount of times like crazy stuff happened in the top lane with him was incredible.
Yeah, and then like, I just feel like in summer, that guy's like, I don't know if you saw what was his name? Reaper said that like the 2 players to watch for. One of them was Broken Blade, and I agree. Like, I just feel like now he's, you know, got his playoff games in. You know, he knows what he needs to do. He knows his opponents now. Like, I feel like he's just gonna absolutely dominate next season.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too was working around him. Early in the season, they had a lot of struggles with like as a team playing with him. I think that's when they picked up a lot of their losses. But I think next split, he'll be super good, and I'm just interested to see if he can actually overtake Licorice potentially.
Kelby, did you see any of the Broken Blade action, or were you too focused on the bot lane?
No. I thought Broken Blade and I felt really bad for both Broken Blade and Jensen because I both thought that they played super fucking nuts. And it kind of I don't know. I definitely don't. I can't speak to and don't want to rag on any of the other TSM players, but I feel like TL is kind of a more consistent team across the board in terms of like their contribution, whereas TSM relies more heavily on Broken Blade and Bjergsen. Did I say Jensen before? I
Yeah,
meant
you
to
did say Jensen.
if I
Yeah,
did.
But I thought Jensen did well, so I was surprised that the chat was
No,
flaming.
I was just saying on TSM in particular, I felt bad for them. I obviously didn't feel bad for Jensen,
Yeah.
but I felt bad for Bjergsen and Broken Blade because I thought that they both played nuts.
Oh, I
And,
thought you were saying you felt bad for Jensen on the player of the series thing.
No.
I got you.
Yeah,
You
no,
felt bad for them
I
because you
just-
felt like they performed really well but still lost.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
there were parts of this series where I was just like, dude, fuck Bjergsen, man. Like, he's gonna ruin this for Peter. Blade was, like, really, like, consistently sick, but there were just, like, a couple...
When he got Zoe in Game 5, I was like, all right, well, that's not good.
There were some... I felt like this whole... And I definitely can't speak to this, but just, like, based on the conversation that Hunter and you guys were having, and just, like, you know, the analyst talks and stuff, I felt like TL won despite their drafts probably consistently in this series. And you know, other play things that happen, but yeah, Broken Blade and Bjergsen are super fucking good.
Yeah.
Something else,
Oh, go ahead.
if I could touch on, like the player of the series too. Like, I just feel like they gave it to Doublelift just because, you know, this whole storyline going on it. But like the real player of the series,
We have
if I had
another
to
topic for this, so
Oh, okay.
sorry, bud.
Okay, if I, just the Skarner pick too. That I just think that pick was huge and they should have banned it. But if that's
No, we can really quickly. What did you think of the Skarner pick?
that's.
I thought the Skarner pick was good. I think you need to remember that in Game 3, Acadian was manhandling that game and was like 5-0 and 2. I think a lot of people forget about this kind of stuff on the Skarner pick and like all that stuff. It's like they kind of got obliterated 2 early games with the Skarner pick, and then turned it around. And like part of a good play is punishing mistakes. So in the same way, like, you know, Sven got caught. Obviously, Ezreal's a fine pick. Like, it's like the Skarner pick was good, and I'm really glad to see that, and it gave him more of a front line and all this stuff for team fighting. But, you know, I didn't think it was like super ultra god tier that like won them the series or anything like that. And I feel the same way about Smithy's performance. I thought it was really, really good, but Jensen had huge moments. Impact had huge moments.
Core JJ, I felt like every time an
Core
Ezreal ult
JJ
went
had-
out, Core JJ would just
Yeah.
block that every time.
Right.
Oh my god, that was disgusting. Yeah.
But people don't remember Core JJ not pressing E on Tom Kench 3 times in a row in Game 3, which is one of the reasons they fell so far behind.
No, I don't recall that
Because
at all.
he kind of got chain CC'd a couple of times, and a couple of times could have taken a sub-optimal E, tried to greed out for the best E, and then would die. And so I mean, what I'm trying to say here is like, people always have recency bias in a series a little bit, and they tend to forget things that might have contributed over the entire series.
Yeah.
Mark, did you say there's another conversation about Peter getting?
Yeah, we have someone else about it too.
Okay, cool. Well, that's good because hopefully we can get that person in next. But hey, Mikey, thank you so much. Any other thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, that would be it. No, just yeah.
Thanks for calling in, man. I appreciate it. And
No problem.
no worries. You have no accent at all. I didn't detect a single thing.
Oh well, thank you so much. I feel so honored now.
Have a good one. All right. In the meantime, by the way, there's like a sub gifting war that's happening in my channel. So earlier, Kyle gifted 10 subs. Clifford Joe gifted stuff. Real Foxy's gifting stuff. And then Fretful Winter 2, who I think has never gifted in the channel before, sent another 10. And then Kyle0808 sent another 24.
Whoa.
And then Fretful gifted another 10. And just now, as I'm talking, Vasilim sent, I think, 10 as well. So I don't know what's happening.
I think
but
it's
it is
Vasily M.
Vasily
Maybe
M.
a throwback to the Vasily.
Regardless, it's like
Really?
really appreciate it. I don't know why this show is bringing out so much. Maybe the TL fans are just
Probably
in really
Kelby.
good moods. No, that's not. High School Dom is here. High School Dom, where are you calling from?
Jacksonville, Illinois.
Jacksonville, Illinois. Did you go to the finals this weekend?
Yeah, I did.
Hey, there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Full fan.
Yeah. What did
Can
you?
you detect my Chicago accent? I'm like originally from Chicago.
Yes, I didn't want to say anything, but I definitely did notice it.
All right.
Anyway, what did you think of the finals? You have a good time?
It was amazing because like I'm a TL fan. I've always been. So the series was a roller coaster of emotions.
Wait,
for
you've
sure.
always been? How long have you been a TL fan?
Well, I was Curse fan since.
Holy moly.
Oh my god.
You're one
Yeah,
of the few.
Yeah. When they were garbage, I still rooted.
Yeah. Nice. Were you a fan of them whenever Mark was? I guess so, because he was when there
Yeah.
was TL, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that
was there
is
for the last
real
World's
commitment.
Curse.
If you can hang out through the Mark coaching days, like, that's a commitment. Anyway,
Yeah.
what did you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So I felt like Doublelift only got player of the series because it was sixth title, and Core JJ was the best player on Team Liquid throughout that series.
Okay.
Even though he, like Mark said, he did not, he missed a few E's in the third game. He played incredible throughout the entire series, and I feel like he was the reason why Team Liquid won.
People still gift training on my channel. So, Mark, first off, how many of these calls are about how Doublelift didn't receive or didn't deserve it? Because I can
So
take a
this is-
couple, but if this just becomes the whole thing, I'm
No, this is we're gonna lump it all in one here. So even though
Okay.
he's advocating for Core JJ,
yeah,
I'm gonna argue again. The point I'm gonna argue is against Core JJ, Smithy, Jensen. Literally 4 out of the 5 people I've been told, or 3 out of the 5, I guess, I've been told have been robbed.
Well, so Mark, how does this get decided? Because I assume you are part of the voting process.
Right. So the way the voting process works is the casters have votes and the analysts have votes. James does not get a vote. I love that. No, it's just they keep it pretty limited, so you get a total of 5 votes that way, or I guess 6 right now because we have 3 people on the desk. But so basically, people cast their vote, and the highest one wins. And if it's ever a tie, the stats team tie breaks. And so I know some people did vote for Smithy. I don't remember exactly how the voting broke down, but there were multiple different votes.
So it might have just
but-
been a situation where everybody else got 1 and Peter got 2, and that's what did it.
Yeah, I don't know how the voting broke down. I think the analyst desk was more like, I mean, like what always happens is you get kind of like people
Clicks.
influencing each other, of course,
Yeah.
as you talk. Yeah, so you get a little clicky, and it's just like you can't avoid that. Like if you put like there used to be more people who voted. There used to be people from the control room who would vote too, like producers and stuff.
The
Who
Gafford.
did you vote for?
Was that?
Who did you vote for?
I voted for Doublelift. So what I was gonna say is I think the analyst desk click ended up more aligned with Doublelift, and the caster click was more Smithy. And I think this was a series where like everyone had different good moments and different bad moments, and you could make a pretty compelling case for a lot of different people. I think Smithy could have easily won. I think Core JJ could have easily won. I think Jensen could have easily won. as much as Smithy found that pick on Sven and had some really good plays and like played the Skarner super duper well, like I thought Jensen was actually the biggest factor in game 5, and in game 3, Impact's GP was absolutely fucking huge.
Oh yeah.
And then you have to remember, but in that game, even though their bot lane was actually kind of getting killed, Doublelift was up 40 CS in laning phase, just obliterating Sven. And it was core JJ's mistakes that for why they weren't able to snowball through bot lane as hard as they should have. So like, I thought it was really close. I understand why people think there were other options. I agree there were other options. Doublelift ended up winning. I thought he kind of crushed actually the bot lane individually, and I don't think they always converted it as well. And then in this post-game interview, Doublelift kind of flamed Sven for saying like it felt like they were playing not to win the lane, they weren't pushing their advantages, and I actually felt like I had a super free laning phase every single time. And like that's kind of how I felt watching. I thought Doublelift and core of course because it's a two-person lane. I thought they actually had a really great series together.
Yeah, I can see why it looks like either one of. I think probably the two like closest for that is Core JJ and Doublelift in my opinion, just because they demolished that lane and they were like the reason they kind of like had so many advantages throughout those games, because obviously they didn't give much resources to Impact, and so he wasn't getting ahead, and then Jensen and Bjergsen were going even, but like the TL won just because of bot lane, so I understand like why it kind of goes to either of them.
Yeah, and I agree. Like Smithy had big series. Like I think a lot of people have big series. It's just one of those things where like, I bet no matter who you gave it to, you would have someone saying someone got robbed. And I think the Doublelift narrative that people think was the highlight of the show makes it an easy like, not like a red herring. I guess I'm trying to find like it's like a lightning rod for like, oh, they gave it to Doublelift because they're just trying to force a narrative kind of thing. When it's like I think there were legitimate reasons to give it to Doublelift.
Speaking of Doublelift. This evening, I asked Doublelift and said, "Hey, can you come on the show for a little bit tonight? Because Kelby is on, and it could be fun just to talk about it." And he said he was busy, but he did just show up in the Twitch chat and said, "What do you think about my montage?" So I'm tempted to just time him out because he's spamming. He's now linking the montage in the chat. And he said he was busy.
This. You would like it. You're in this video. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh clip which just memed. Kelby's in it.
All right. Well, just you know what? I'll get back at him by airing it on the stream. So nobody needs to go to his video and give him views.
It's a minute and 20 seconds.
Just watch this.
Thing's
Here we
so
go.
Funny. You should just play
this.
Here we go.
That was pretty good. Peter, in answer to your question, I really enjoyed your montage. I thought that was great.
I got a question for Doublelift. What'd you think about the Zven BM at Jensen, like the height thing?
Why doesn't he just join the channel?
I don't care. I don't want to talk to him. I'm jealous, actually. I do want to talk to him, but that's what I really want to know. Doublelift says honestly, it was all really funny.
Yeah. Good,
because there's so many fucking salty little boys on Reddit like, oh, I think trash talk's awesome. We should have more trash talk.
Peter trash talked a little, or he was going in on. Peter, can you join the Discord, please? Peter was going in on him a little bit in my interview, though, is the only thing.
Sven?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He was saying, he said it was kind of BM that he did all this. I think a lot of people were reacting to Sven doing that, or a lot of people had negativity because Peter kind of called him out in the interview.
I didn't see the interview, because I don't care.
Sure.
But I imagine he was just saying he BM'd and then he lost, so it was funny, or like it was karma.
He did say that, but he also was like, oh, it was a little. I don't know. I felt like he pushed it more than that.
Hey, high school Dom, can you mute because you gotta?
There's
I can kick you
something.
Out of the chat. Yeah. So I didn't watch it. You tell me if I'm putting words in Peter's mouth because I don't want to do that. But also, his message just got deleted.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. That's crazy. But that I don't know.
Show blows. I'm playing Apex Legends.
I don't know how you. Weird that message got deleted.
So you tell me. Maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, but from what I could tell reading the comments, it was just like, oh yeah, he BM'd, and then he was the team's reasons, or like the reason his team lost, and that makes it funny, I guess, like karma, but
Yeah.
maybe he was being more negative about the BM.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly, I don't want to put words in his mouth either. People can just go. This is going to sound like a plug, but it's not. But people should go watch the interview because he contextualized it in a specific way that I don't want to put on here. And also, the interview's too long for me to find it. Otherwise, I'd just air that part on the show. But regardless, the only thing I have is I feel like it was weird that Sven made fun of Jensen's height, because I feel like that is kind of shitty. I'd rather he make fun of Jensen's game. Like, I'm much more okay with the Ezreal, like, or not the Ezreal.
Maybe he's making fun of his own height because Sven is so tall
Mm-hmm.
and looks like
I'm sure that's exactly what he meant.
Yeah,
by it.
he was just like, I can't see anything because I'm so goddamn tall.
I thought the Echo Hover was cool. I did not think that, even though he did it a little probably too much, I thought the height thing was lame.
I thought it was funny, and as far as I can tell, everyone was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think it's offensive. I didn't think it was funny.
Yeah, I don't think.
I mean, I do not think that trash talk should extend to people's physical attributes. And everyone in Twitch chat right now is going to be like, Travis, it's a joke. And those people are also the people
Really?
that are getting
That's
banned
all
from League of
Reddit.
Legends on the reg for being toxic. But I don't. I think I'd
think it
rather
depends
they'd
on
be
what
like,
the
this guy sucks at the
relationship is.
game than like he's too short.
Do you know what their relationship is?
What, him and Jensen?
Sven and Jensen, yeah.
I don't know.
Well then, you know, who the fuck knows? If Jensen has a problem with it, he can say something. But if, like, I'm not gonna assume that, like, that was really fucked up, because I don't know.
I didn't say it was really fucked up. I just don't think it was classy. I think there's classy BM. I don't think that was
okay.
classy.
It's
Okay.
not like Jensen is like abnormally really
Yeah.
short, right? It's just like I don't think it like if Jensen was like legitimately like, you know.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna find out. I'm gonna air it on stream right now.
This is the Doublelift quote.
This is some. He apparently Jensen said something on his stream, and we're gonna put it on stream.
Oh,
right now.
did he? Okay,
Yeah, okay, here we go.
perfect. Because now we can settle if it was cool or not cool by the guy who actually had it happen to him.
To get like
Oh, it's really quiet.
a mental advantage.
I can't. I have to turn it on the stream.
Trying to trigger us, but I don't know. I guess like honestly, I thought the opening ceremony thing, like he was just trying to be funny, right? Like I think that's fine. And then he hovers Echo, trying to be really funny again. And then he hovers Echo 4 more times, trying to be really, really funny. But at that point, it's just I don't know. I thought it was just a bit lame, like a bit too much, you know.
Okay, so he has no issue with the opening ceremony thing. He has no issue with him hovering Echo once or twice, but he thought it was stupid that he did it 5 times.
Yeah,
I know that was quiet. I'm sorry, guys. There was no way for me to make it louder. It was maxed out on the browser, and it's just the clip is just too quiet.
The point that he's making more than anything is telling the same joke 5 times isn't funny.
Yeah.
And so this is once again why I say, like, I don't want to read into like what's offending someone or not, or decide something's BM when the guy who it's happening to actually doesn't give a shit. And now, like, we are risking like making people not want to do jokes because the community is going to take it the wrong way on someone else's behalf. And like, I loved that he did it. I thought it was hilarious and like great because it got a storyline. And so like,
No, I mean, I think it's good. In the
Yeah,
same
like,
way
I
that
don't-
I think the 100K bet was perhaps not legal, I think it did add a lot of spice to the situation.
well, so like either way, my point is like rather than have a bunch of people go around saying you should never make fun of someone's physical appearance or something and take it way too seriously, like the guy it happened to thought it was funny, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah. Whatever.
That's my thought.
Kelby, do you have any thoughts on any of this?
Yeah, no, like I said, I didn't think it was offensive. I didn't think it was funny. I mean, like I think it's unfair and probably not cool to make fun of somebody's physical appearance when it's like very clearly an issue, right? Like if Jensen was really short, like actually for a guy, and you know, like it's like okay, maybe just don't fucking do that because that's lame, you know. Or like if somebody was like really really overweight, you wouldn't make a joke about that, you know, on stage certainly. But you know, he's just like a little short for a guy, and Sven's tall, so whatever. I didn't think it was funny, but I didn't think it was offensive.
I mean, I chuckled and I thought it was like,
Yeah.
hey, cool, some personality between these guys as opposed to another ceremony where they stand there and shake hands awkwardly and walk back to their thing.
Yeah. Well,
I would like to see more of it than less, I guess is my point.
High School Dom, any final thoughts?
No, I just wanted to thank Mark for giving me this name, because last time I was on, you said that sounded like a high school version of Dom. So now I rep it.
I totally see that, actually.
I actually
Yeah.
got really confused because when I talked to you in the waiting room for 2 seconds, I was like, holy shit, is that actually Dom?
It's pretty good.
Nice
Thanks.
talking to you guys.
And thank you for being a sub as well.
Yeah, of course.
Have a good one.
So-
All right. Well, on to the next call. Actually, I think we should take a quick break.
I was gonna say,
looking
yeah.
at the time, yeah. So, as some of you may know, we did a Hotline League live version. I highly recommend. I know that the topics are maybe more relevant, like if you were watching before finals, but that episode was so fun. Mark, you had a good time with it, right?
Yes, I was actually amazed at the like perfect balance of rowdiness and like politeness that the crowd at the Hotline League thing reached. Where like, you know, people were animated, people were into it, there was heckling and like laughing, but like no one tried to make the show about them. No one tried to do anything that like would make it unsafe and like, you know, oh, maybe we should look at a barrier or something between us. Like, it was the perfect level of respect and disrespect, and I really fuck you.
What?
I think
You realize you have a microphone on as you open
I muted
something
it.
right next to it.
I muted it for the stream, but not. I didn't mute it to you.
Oh, so people just think I'm cursing you for no reason.
Yes.
This is extreme. If you can't tell, it's extremely loud, and he did not mute it for us. Oh wait, everyone's saying you didn't mute it.
I muted it for a while, and then I unmuted it at the end. So they knew why you were saying it, but it probably felt.
Okay.
Anyway, I agree with Mark. Everybody kept coming up to me saying that they had such a great time. I wish I could take credit for most of that, but I can't because a lot of it was just Alienware coming in, helping throw the event. They brought in like a Mark. Kelby, are you familiar with Double A?
Yep.
Yeah. So they brought Double A in, which is like this. They do experiential marketing events, and so they helped like make sure there were brand ambassadors at the front door instead of just my friend with a shitty printed out spreadsheet that I made, and made sure that everybody had like drink tickets if they were 21 or over, and all this stuff. So it was really cool. But one thing they also did was they hooked my live producer buddy up with an Area 51M, and now I have an Area 51M, which I am unboxing on stream right now. I just want to show everybody that I also have one. That was the important point I was trying to make.
Maybe next time do like
What
some
is the Area 51M,
pre-tearing.
Travis?
I'm glad you asked, Kelby. The Area 51M is basically a desktop turned in... Okay, wait. Maybe I'm supposed to open it the other. It's basically a desktop turned into a laptop. It's super sexy, and it's incredibly powerful. So it's got a... you can put i7s or i9s in it, but desktop-level processors, not the mobile versions. It's also got a desktop-level GPU, I believe. It's something a little bit stronger than what they put in like a lot of the Ultrabooks and that kind of thing. And it's completely upgradable. So you can flip this panel off, and you can upgrade not just the hard drives and the memory like a lot of notebooks, but it also makes it very easy to upgrade the processor. And they even have a custom GPU chips. I don't know the right way to say it, but they have a special type of graphics cards that they've been able to develop using NVIDIA stuff, so that in the future, there's a chance, depending on how NVIDIA goes with their architecture, you could also upgrade the graphics card in this. Or if you get a 2060 in it, you can later on upgrade to 2070, that kind of stuff. So it's just really awesome computer. They run you've probably seen their ads on the LCS broadcast if you have done that, but we used this last weekend to, not this one, but one like it, on Friday to do the whole show. It's sick. I now have one that showed up right before I left. I'm going to Palm Springs this week with my father. I'm going to bring this thing, and I'm going to be able to game the entire time. Pretty sick. Thank you
It's
so
the
much,
perfect
Alien
laptop
What?
for ignoring your family.
What?
So it's the perfect laptop for
Yes.
ignoring your family.
Exactly.
I have an area, or I have Alienware 17, and the TSA guy, when I pulled it out at the airport, was like, "What the fuck is that?" Because it was so impressive. And
And
he's
then
like,
you
"Is that even
said-
a laptop?"
I'm glad you asked.
And I gave him that exact spiel you just did
Yes.
as I held up the entire line.
Yeah. that's he's like it Mark's like, and not only that, but they also said, he's like, sir, you can move. He's like, no, listen, they also support
Listen to
LCS.
these features. He's like, I don't even know what a computer is. Shut up.
Yeah. Actually, think about this one. This weekend they had like their most successful weekend ever from what I can tell, because they did live Hotline League, which from what I can tell was a huge success. Everyone seemed to like it. Then Team Liquid won, and they sponsored the LCS, and there were no pauses during the entire LCS series.
Boom.
I probably shouldn't say that, because maybe some point in time there will be a pause, and then people will be like, meh. But I just thought it was really impressive that they had, like, and the finals were great. So I felt, I think they were probably really happy with how this weekend went.
Well, what percentage of the time historically have LCS pauses occurred because of hardware issues versus League just being a
Yeah.
really...
Well, I think most of the time it's because Sven spills something.
Even
I don't know if
games
you
he's
saw
not
this,
in.
but in the semifinals, he somehow broke open his heat pack and spilled
spilled
like
the
the stuff that was, they got him like a cup that wouldn't spill, and then he still somehow broke open the heat pack and sprayed it all. It's very impressive. Actually.
I would say most pauses are usually audio issues.
Like with the game or the hardware setup that they're using?
I think usually with the hardware setup, in terms of like, oh, I can't hear this guy quite, or something like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I have those types of issues on this show. But that's all Discord, not Alienware. Anyway, thank you to Alienware. Check out Dell.com/Travis. I really appreciate it. I've seen some signs recently that were Dell.com/Travis, and I think that's really nice that fans are doing that. Anyway.
On the LCS broadcast, people just bring signs that say...
Somebody brought one to LCS the weekend before last. I don't know if he was able to show it on the stream. That's an interesting conundrum for LCS, right? Because do they want to take away a sign that purposely advertises their sponsor, or do they want to fuck me because they want to get that gone? You know, and
Is there
Who doesn't wanna fuck Travis?
Dell.com/LCS?
What's that?
Is there Dell.com/LCS?
I don't know. I know. Zach was tweeting that they have a 10% code. One of the LCS guys or whatever. He said he bought one using a LCS 10% code. So, but don't use that. All right. Use Dell.com/Travis.
Which one's a bigger discount?
Let's move on. Mark, who's our next caller? By the way, shout outs to
Real Foxy 1.
Cool for Joe, who gifted to Aziz, Space Cowboy 247, Abiha 1225, Silent Bob 923, Goat Overlord, Kelby Maze Giggle, Real Foxy 1, who gifted to Kelby, Mr. Fanatic, Ollie 1, Nimad 23, Otter Stampede, Daniel N92, Voyu 1, who's at 17 months, and Raf. And then Fretful Winter, who gifted, Kyle 08, who gifted to Ovely, Irrelevant Jeff, and Strawbees. I've got way more to go, so we'll get that next. But our next caller is here, Snarf05. Snarf, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Yakima, Washington.
Yakima, Washington. Kelby, are you familiar with where that is?
State caller? Hell yeah.
Kelby, do you know where Yakima is?
Yeah, Yakima. So it's like it's on the wrong side of the state, which we can forgive you for.
It's okay.
But being Washington State caller is still really cool.
Why is it the wrong side?
It's on the
it's on
eastern
the
side, not the western side.
Okay.
You know, western Seattle, it's all cool. Eastern's a little bit more, hicky and shit.
Gotcha.
I didn't say that. You said that.
Yeah, it is.
Well, either way, thanks for calling in. What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about comparing Berg and Doublelift for GOAT title. In my opinion, is like dumb. It's like comparing Tom Brady and Jerry Rice, and they play different positions, and they're great for the jobs that they do. I know LCS is just trying to build up a hype train and get more viewers and all that garbage, and oh my god, but I just feel like it becomes, like the First Take show, and people just arguing over nothing. In my opinion.
I like that they did it, but I have heard Kelby and I have a friend who was saying that they feel as though it's like, well, they're not at the end of their careers or whatever. They're gonna play again next week. What if they meet again in the summer finals? Are we just having this conversation all over again? And if Bjerg wins that time, does it like are they both the best again? Like what's going on there? And so I can understand
Who's
your point.
friend?
Cannot say.
I don't want to say.
Because I'm about to make a very personal attack.
Okay,
Is
go
this
ahead.
something I'm gonna regret?
No.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
No, I think it's a fair question. Like if it was like they met all the time, but this is only the second time they've ever played in finals, and 4 years later. So it's also the first time that they've played when their number of championships were even close. And so like, I don't know when you're supposed to do it, if not now.
Well,
You
I
never know.
think
Because the
if
same
you're
way
gonna
that-
compare something like that, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You never know if they're gonna meet again either. So to the person's point, like, what if they meet 3 more times? Maybe. What if they never meet again, and you didn't have that conversation when they were actively playing? And so, like, yeah, if you don't, we can get into whether or not it's a good conversation, but I think the timing of it makes sense.
That's a fair point.
I just feel like if you're gonna compare, like at the time, what Turtle for championships, like when DL did, and I think that was a accurate comparison. Sitting there when they both had 4. Other than that, not sure. Comparing mid to ADC is just so hard because mid is, it's
Well,
just
you brought up sports comparisons, but people do that all the time. What about Magic versus Bird? One was a point guard, one was a small forward. People did that all the time. What about LeBron versus MJ? One's a small forward, one's a shooting guard. Like, these kinds of conversations in sports happen all the time cross-positionally, and it's not that hard. They're both carries. They don't play against each other, but who's more influential to their team's success and stuff like that? Like, I think it's actually a pretty easy conversation to have.
I think I used football because the way that league is built around 5 different lanes, and football is like, everyone has their own positions in a sense, and that's why I compared the two between a quarterback and a receiver. Basketball is just a completely different breed, but that's just,
Why does the football comparison make more sense than the basketball comparison? I'm struggling to follow that.
I just laid it out because league has 5 different lanes, and when you have mid that, hyper carrying away, just like, a mid laner could do more than what an ADC can, just like a quarterback could do more than what a wide receiver can.
That's pretty subjective. And also, well, this is going to get too far into it, but the reason that the quarterback position in football is the easiest position of all time is because they're the only position on the field that will touch the ball, other than the center, every single snap on offense. That's not true with mid lane. You can play supportive, lame-ass champions and let your marksman carry the way CLG did for splits by picking hyper carry comps for bot lane. So I don't quite agree with your premise here, but this is starting to get a little off topic.
Yeah.
Kelby, you were going to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say that like I started out on your side, Snarf, and like Mark is kind of convincing me a little bit that like I think that there is a conversation that's warranted, especially I believe in this instance. Not necessarily. I get what you're saying that like comparing mid to ADC is different. The roles are different, but TSM and Team Liquid historically, let me say this instead. Bjerg and Peter's teams historically have played through those positions, except when they were on the team together and they were both kind of carrying, right? But like Bjerg has been the man on his team that they play through, and Peter, aside from his time on TSM, has always been the one that's played through on his team. And I think statistically over time too, they're just like in leagues completely different than everybody else for their competition respectively in North America, right? Like Peter is by far ahead statistically of all other AD carries, even Sneaky, I think, who has a similar tenure in NALCS, and Bjergsen obviously like crushes everybody else from mid lane. So I actually agreed with our friend Travis that I felt like I don't necessarily think that the conversation wasn't warranted. I didn't think that it was executed probably as well as I would have liked. From like
that I can agree on.
Yeah,
for sure.
but yeah, no, I get it.
It
I
was
think
a little
it also,
ham-fisted at times, I think.
Yeah, that's probably the term I would use. I think also kind of too we're at a disservice because Peter and Bjergsen play together and they clearly still have so much respect for each other. They're not like very like it's a very friendly rivalry if it is a rivalry at all, right? those guys, like, I don't know, they clearly have so much respect. They're not like talking shit the way that Steve and Andy do, right? So it makes building that narrative a little bit tougher for the production team.
I mean, I also
Yeah.
think it just works well because, I mean, I think even Kelby and I have talked about it. I know I've talked with other people about who is like the most popular player, like who represents the LCS. And at times it has been Bjerg, and I feel like at times it has been Doublelift. And now I would say it feels like they're pretty even these days in terms of if how many people are interested in watching an interview with either of them when I do an interview with them, or like the fans that show up. You know, oftentimes you don't have. We had a caller or a guy that came on the show that was like, I'm a TSM fan. He's like, actually more of a Bjergsen fan. And I think a lot of TL fans are Doublelift fans, right? Like, these are two players that command their own, like, people watch LCS just in some cases for these two guys, including Kelby, for instance, who's an example of that. So I think that's why I think it's fun to have that conversation when they're going head to head, especially since this is the first time they've met in the finals since their team split. Can you guys imagine what it would be like if you had these two incredible players who are so popular? Imagine if they were on the same team. Wouldn't that be insane? I can't imagine how any team would ever want to.
Yeah, to that point, I really hope that conversation comes up later, because that's what I was really looking forward to talking to on Hotline League tonight. But I can definitively answer the question for who's better, and that's based off their head-to-head record. Peter's 2-0, right, in LCS finals. So what we have is Peter beat Bjergsen. Then he went to TSM, and obviously that team was like GOAT NA team. And then Peter left, and what happened to TSM? And now Team Liquid's won 3 splits in a row, including just beating TSM. So I think we know who's the most impactful player in North America.
I agree.
But Kelby.
I'm like 50%.
But Kelby,
Bjergsen's
Bjergsen's never been relegated.
Yeah. Well, yikes.
Peter was never relegated. He went to relegations.
He played in relegations and almost got swept by Curse Academy. That legendary team.
Yeah, and then they let him play Tristana for like 3 games or something.
And then they built that comp where it was 3 times in a row called the Protect the Doublelift comp, and he hard carried an entire organization from the brink of disaster. But yeah, let's not talk about greatest of all time. That's not a fun conversation.
That was awesome. Thank you, Peter.
Snarf, any other thoughts?
No, that was all. Thanks for the show. I watch it all the time. It's pretty cool.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for being a sub as well.
Yeah, no problem.
Right, have a good one.
Later.
All right, moving on to the next caller. Catching up, by the way, thank you to Kyle for the 24 gifted subs. That's insane. Bezerb, who resubbed. Fretful Winter for the 10, I believe. Stahil, who gifted a sub to Risen Lazarus. I'm not going to thank you, Risen Lazarus. You got one gifted. Vasily M. Real Foxy 1, who gifted another 10. Jesus, how many did I get tonight just from gifted subs? Boba Cola, who went in on another 10. And then Real Foxy gifted one to Team Liquid. Congratulations to Team Liquid, your biggest accomplishment in the past week. Posnot for 15 months, Quad Demon for 8. Real Foxy gifted one to Doublelift. Ragbite Light for 16. RX Dealer 89. And Kiki Cat is here. Kiki Cat, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks.
Yeah. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Utah.
Utah. Where about in Utah? I was just in Salt Lake City yesterday.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm in a town called Orem, like 40 minutes south from there.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. That's really, there's like, flying over Salt Lake City, there's like a giant marsh area next to the lake.
It might be near that, I guess. I don't know.
Anyway, what do you want to talk about on the show?
My topic for the show was, I think TL was able to win games 3 through 5 through draft, specifically through X-Smithy. And I have a couple points I wrote down here. First, I think he had a strong KDA compared to Acadian, so he was very comfortable and he knows where he needs to be around the map. He knows really good how to engage and who to ult in team fights around objectives, and the Quicksilver Sash tax that he put on TSM.
So, sorry, do you think it was the draft or X-Smithy?
The draft enabling him to pick Skarner through
Okay.
X-Smithy's play on it, I guess.
Yeah, I think I don't know if their drafts were like super winning drafts in the games that they won.
Game 5, I was worried that their draft lost them the game.
I didn't actually like their draft in Game 5 either. Yeah.
I was like, Jesus, this is going to be close. And
Yeah,
and quite frankly, they would have probably lost if it wasn't for Sven.
Yeah, I was nervous about Jensen in Game 5. Like, not his play on LeBlanc, but just the champion as it is, like, very hard to execute on in late game team fights if you don't find specific picks around objectives or things like that, that it could be hard to play champion.
I mean,
like that.
Yeah, for sure. I think LeBlanc is a very strong champion, and he has hard carried on it before. But I can understand as a, like, let's say, TL fan, being nervous watching him, knowing his history and how maybe he's choked in Game 5s in the past, and to put him on such a volatile champion. I can definitely see why that'd be scary.
Speaking of their draft, oh sorry, Mark, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, like, you know, they didn't have a strong bot lane, they didn't have a strong top lane, they had a losing jungle matchup early, and then mid lane is good for LeBlanc in a weird way, but not like a super smashing lane kind of way. More of like you have gank set up, but then you don't even have this. You probably don't have the stronger 2v2 early. So I thought their Game 5 draft was like 100%, you know, kind of late game focused. It was very scary.
I mean, in contrast to their final ones, I'm actually kind of curious what you think of this, Mark. In the press conference, the question that I led with was, what was the deal with the Heimerdinger pick? And
I saw the answer, yeah.
Yeah. For those that didn't catch it, he was like, yeah, we played it twice in scrims. I've never played it in solo queue. We needed an answer to Zoe, and my academy mid laner said that it was good against Zoe, so we picked it. And I'm like, part of me is like, that's a cool story. On the other hand, my part of me is like, in Game 1, you guys are like, oh, he got Zoe. What should we do? Oh, we played this 2 times. Let's lock that in. I'm like, this is the finals. What's going on there? That seems insane.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was hilarious. And, like, part of me, like, oh, God, how do I don't want to not encourage people to find cool counter picks and try them, because I think they should. And that game was one that they could have won if Broken Blade did not, like, pop the fuck off super hard in a couple of fights. So I have a hard time really criticizing it. But
do you think that Heimerdinger was impactful on that? Like, it didn't feel like it held back Zoe at all.
I think if they had a normal mid laner, they probably win that game.
So that's, like, quite frankly, I look at that first game and I'm like, how is it that, like, you know Bjerg plays Zoe. How is it that you're like, you know, I think somebody could have gone to U.GG and perhaps found a better counter.
Well, I mean, it worked. They tried it, and if it won, people would be like, oh my god. And to be fair, they were, like I said, they were close to winning had Broken Blade not, like, turned a 2v4 around. You know, so, like, I don't know. I'm a little torn on it because I didn't like it when I saw it, like, picked. It's like you have this all engage comp, and then, like, the way that the Heimer contributes to those fights is he presses RE and just throws, like, a grenade over the top, which is, like, pretty shit. It's okay, I guess I should say. But I don't know. I didn't like the pick. I didn't like it after I saw it play, but I don't want to discourage the mindset, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I feel like it's cool if you innovate. In the finals, I'd love to see something more than like, well, we played this twice in scrims, let's go for it. You know, especially in the first game. Like, in my mind, if it's the 5th game and you're like, oh, all of our strategies have not been working, and we need to pull out something, okay, let's do the desperation thing. Let's work twice. Let's see. But I'm like, how is this the first thing you're picking? I don't know.
Yeah. I think, either way, to the caller's point, I think the TL games that they won, their drafts were okay. You know, decent into TSM. You could say maybe they had a couple small draft advantages here and there, but it wasn't, like, super strong, and I think they actually lost a fair amount of drafts pretty hard.
Yeah, I would give drafting still way more to Zix and Team TSM coaching, because I feel like those guys have done well. Well, I just mean like the coaching staff on TSM.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Smithy just played the Skarner really well. Like, he had a really good KDA throughout the series, so he's not dying for free. He knows when to farm his camps, when to play around objectives in certain lanes. And his ults around fights, grabbing like Smoothie and Acadian, he would just neutralize them and make them basically unable to participate in the fights. And
Yeah,
you could see TL in a couple of the games, they'd be down like 4,000, 5,000 gold. But then you look at TSM's items, and they have 3 to 4 Quicksilver sashes, you know? So they had to pay that tax for that. So that's what I thought. I thought Smithy just played this corner really well and was really smart about how he played.
It's not enough of a tax that could have been paid to have saved Sven.
Yeah.
Yikes. Well, thanks so much, Kicky Cat. Any final thoughts?
Nope. Just shout out to Alienware for supporting the show and Team Liquid at their training facility. And I love the shows.
Have a good one, man.
Thank you. You too.
All right. We've got a couple more callers coming in. Mark runs off to get them. You wanted to talk about... did you already go on your rant, Kelby, about the Doublelift verse? You said that there was something you were hoping to talk about on the show tonight.
Yeah, the thing I want to talk about is...
we don't have to do it now. I'm just trying to make sure we don't forget.
Oh, yeah, is just in retrospect, the decision to cut Doublelift from the roster.
RX Dealer 89, Jackpot 7707, Dude Casey, Geek Out, Fretful Winter, the Meowcenary 351, Posnot, Gifted Sub to Praxters, and Ezreal Auditory 1. We're caught up on subs. Mark should have our person. Oh, here it is. OG Kush. Kush?
Yes, OG
Kush. Come on, man.
Are you a Dota fan? Because that's a Team OG thing, right?
I just picked it off from Google, so I guess that's just coincidence.
OG is original gangster, and it's also a type of weed, I believe. OG Kush.
Yeah.
Okay, but he spells it with a C, right?
Yeah, that's because
let me take the Alienware logo down.
Yeah, it's because it's my last name.
Yeah,
starts with the C.
That's definitely the old Team OG logo. So.
I identified it.
You did. You did.
Nice.
See, Kelby always goes, Travis doesn't watch other esports. I see this guy's logo. He has no idea what it is. It's in the context of League of Legends, and I identify it as being a Dota team.
Uh-huh.
No, it's
what
good.
a hero.
I'll give you credit there.
Yeah. Anyway, where are you calling from?
So I'm calling from Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Okay. Is weed legal there?
No.
Okay. Well, don't tell anyone your name on Discord. What do you want to talk about?
So I'd like to talk about G2 and Team Liquid, kind of go into MSI. I think G2 is pretty overrated in that they rely too much on snowballing in the early game, which I think can be exploited. I think TL's macro, especially what they showed in games 3 through 5 in the finals, is going to really help them in MSI. And LS has tweeted about this, so how clean he thought that TL was.
It's dangerous to bring out LS analysis right now.
Yeah, I know, and I know that the NA hype, bring before MSI, but I don't. I think it's true.
Yeah. Mark?
LS said he regretted saying it, apparently, according to Twitch chat.
Yeah,
redacted it?
Probably because he got so much crap from all the G2 redditors on there. He just had to cave.
Well, I've never known LS to back away because of community feedback, so I feel like it's unlikely that's why he caved. He cave after G2's games on Sunday.
Yeah, maybe. No, he did say, I think this was on the Orange show, that he said that TL was cleaner, but he did say that if G2 played TL, he thought that G2 would win.
Gotcha.
I mean, I think I can understand that sentiment, especially if you watch some of the stuff at the end of the season. G2 would throw away gigantic leads, and they do play pretty fast and loose, but I think that's also a strength of theirs, where they have really, the same way that we were just kind of ragging on the Heimerdinger, G2 plays that shit and makes it look good. And so they have interesting drafts that they're hard to prepare for. They make plays that's hard to anticipate because it's so aggressive. It's the same way people have always flamed China in their play style, but oh man, LPL is so messy. LPL is not clean at all, and it's actually they've always been the second best region. So I don't know if I can agree with you, OG Kush. I thought G2 looked real good, and I don't think Origin put like the Origin series versus G2 remind me of the TL series versus FlyQuest, where I didn't leave that series being like, oh my god, TL just destroyed FlyQuest. They're so good. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, well, FlyQuest kind of just rolled over and died, and that's how Origin looked to me. But I still think G2 is so good. Like, I don't know. I think it
Yeah.
also doesn't. I also don't think it's a good mismatch for Team Liquid because I feel like sometimes weird drafts kind of get to them. I don't think their answer to Sonateric was particularly inspiring. When people try and do cool stuff to them, you know, the closer you get to standard, the better it is for Team Liquid, and G2 is the furthest thing from that.
Yeah,
So-
there's definitely a lot of hype. I see a bunch of stuff on how like G2 is just as good as like LCK and LPL and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm not so sure. Like some of their games during the regular season were like really they had some games that went pretty late and I think that if you can get it to more of a more late game, that you can have a pretty decent shot at them.
Kelby, were you gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, I've watched 0 games of LEC this year. It's the LEC, yeah, LEC, right?
Yeah.
But I can tell
The
you,
LEC, yeah.
I can tell you definitively that G2 will do much better than Team Liquid at MSI. I love my boy Peter very much. It was very hard for me to hear from him that, like, you know, winning another NALCS split didn't mean that much and the real goal is doing well at Worlds. Because I feel much more confident about him and his team performing in North America as opposed to on the international stage. So I think for his best interest and all of the NA fans' best interest, it's probably just best to, like, you know, keep aspirations grounded locally and what
I can't
we
wait
can
to
accomplish
see
domestically
TL
for our
shit
audience.
on the OG. All right, we're gonna spank those EU fanboys.
It doesn't help now as well that, like, they're now the more popular region and sponsor like success, like they're getting more area. Like, we don't have anything compared to LEC anymore. Like, we used to be able to shit on them and meme about how they're unpopular and didn't have sponsors.
They don't
and,
have
like,
Travis Gafford.
all their players came over here, and now, like, Caps didn't come over. Great. You know, that used to be our pickup. Now he's over there. You know, he got to a fucking world finals. Like, how are we supposed to compete with that shit? You know, we've got second-rate EU transfers like Jensen and Bjergsen, dude. What are we
And
gonna do?
Niski.
Yeah, and Niski, you know.
Gross.
It's like, oh, couldn't
Why is
cut
that
it in
Caps?
EU, might as well come to NA, you know, eat some cheeseburgers, good time. So
Got
Yeah.
a world champion support though.
I won't be watching MSI.
Are you excited for Rift Rivals though, Kelby?
Is that the one where we play EU?
Yep, it's TSM C9 TL versus Origin Fnatic G2.
So this actually, the answer to that is yes, because well, last time in Rift Rivals didn't we do bad, but the first time we did good, or is it the reverse?
I
We
think they won the
did
first time.
good,
Last
then
time we
bad.
won, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. But I actually also think that TL, TSM, and C9 are all really, really close. Very clearly, I think it would be hard to argue that those teams are not all three really, really close in proximity to each other for skill, and, like, any one of them realistically probably could have won the split. So I think we actually will probably have a really good chance if G2 is that, and again, having watched NOLC, is that much significantly better than their counterparts in Europe, then we would have a really good chance in Rift Rivals. Is it here or is it in EU?
I don't know if it's been announced.
It has not been
Can you give us
announced.
the answer, Mark?
Mark
I'm
probably
not gonna-
knows. I don't know, but I am skeptical that they would do Worlds in Europe and also Rift Rivals in Europe. So that is why I would place it on North America.
We could have it in the middle ground, Canada, which is like,
I was
you
gonna
know,
be like the
halfway in
ocean.
between.
Yeah, I
sick.
think that's even if TL gets slammed at MSI and G2 is that much better. I think to Kelby's point, Rift Rivals would still be interesting then because G2 also slammed their own region. So
By the way, earlier I said TL is going to smash OG. Obviously, I meant J2. Twitch chat was like, he said OG. Me.
The other thing, Twitch chat. Someone, I forget. I scrolled too much, but someone said that TL didn't actually have a strat for Sonaterra because they didn't think TSM played it. That's bad.
But they know they play Sonaterra, so in playing something, wouldn't you know, like, oh man, we don't want to go up against this.
The entire world is playing it. Their academy team, TSM Academy, played it. You have played it. You know how dumb it is.
Yeah.
You go onto a red side draft, and your entire planning was, we're gonna leave it up and hope they don't pick it. And if they do, we're gonna shit our pants.
Just like Zoe.
Yeah, I'm not flaming you guy in Twitch chat. I'm just saying, like, that is not like a promising sign when we're like, oh yeah, and then they're gonna go up against G2 as a bunch of crazy picks. Like, that's horrible prep. That's god awful prep.
I think we're gonna do great. It's gonna be
Okay.
It's gonna be fantastic. Don't worry. We always do best whenever people count us out. Nobody thought CLG was gonna do well at. What, Mark? You look like you're getting a mic.
That was one time.
I'm just reading more Twitch chat where they're like, they
Oh, don't
thought
read
they would
that.
shut it down in
Okay.
lane. No, I'm not mad at
Here-
Twitch chat. I'm like,
Just
if
the
that's
time to
actually their
read Twitch
reasoning.
chat is when there's a giant like gifted sub thing. All right, that's what they're there for. The rest of the time they're just spew and dribble. All right.
Someone said they just said that they didn't think that they would play it. Okay, well, so my point stands either way. Either they thought Ash Zyra was
This
a
is
good
the
pick.
part.
Goddamn Twitch chat, follow me here.
Mark- Mark's just gonna
They
pick
thought-
fights with them.
They thought Ash Zyra was a good answer, which it's fucking not, and you should be able to reason out why it's not.
Listen to
Or
me, you
they
nameless
didn't prep.
blob.
You swarm of faces I'm yelling at. Listen,
It's just like Mark in the middle of a swarm of gnats, and he's just trying to like fight them. You know. Man fights bee fight or bee swarm. I don't know whatever. Losing my mind.
anyways, that's not a good sign when you start playing against people who have crazy drafts.
By the way, I think we had a higher peak than first finals than LEC. There's this, I know that we peaked at over 500. I think it was like 570 or something. And Grimhar just linked a dailyesports.gg. I don't know about this site. I'm not.
But
familiar
Travis,
with it,
did you include all the foreign language broadcasts and YouTube and Mixer and Caffeine?
I think so.
I
There's
went to a
esports
website.
charts.
I went to a website and it told me this number and it was bigger, so it's right.
Kelby,
People
don't you
like
have
us again.
access to a tool that would let you look this up?
Yeah, but I just, I see the comments and people are like, oh yeah, LEC is more popular, and I take it for granted. I'm not.
I mean, it has
I'm not-
been really good, the split for them. Congrats.
I mean,
to them.
let's be honest. There was no Fnatic, and it was a series that they already saw, and you knew it was going to be a shit stomp, and then it was a shit stomp, versus this, which was super hyped up,
Yeah.
full 5-game series. I mean, as much as I like ragging on old LEC, like,
Lick my balls. OG Kush, we've gone way off topic, but you're still here.
It's
I
just-
Yeah,
forget
I
how
am.
we got here. Is there anything that you want to say?
Wait, what was the original topic?
He was talking about G2 is going to lose to TL.
yeah.
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 Or as I like to call them, OG.
Yep. Well, this is my first time on the show, so that was good. This will be one of those things where if TL chokes, like, yeah, maybe it's what everybody expects. But if beat G2, maybe you'll have to have me on again.
Yeah, I know. This is what you all do now.
I know.
All right, OG Kush. Here's what you gotta do.
this. Oh,
All right,
it's
all right,
one of
let me
those
hear
things. You're so transparent about it too. At the end of the call, you're just like,
Just
this
throw-
is one of
throw-
those
throw it
things
out.
where I've come on and predicted something that most people don't believe will happen, and no one will remember this call if it doesn't happen. But
Yep.
now they will. If it does, I'll be
OG
here.
Kush.
Uh,
What will TL get out of group set, and what will G2 finish at?
Ooh. TL going to finals, baby. G2 will make it to top 4, but they'll lose to, I don't know, SKT or
Okay.
IG.
Okay. Well, you can call it the end MSI then.
Hell yeah.
Or actually earlier, because as soon as it's wrong, you can call in.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You know, maybe we won't. We'll lose to like Japan or something, and we won't even make it there.
Yeah, that'd be great. You get to call as soon as play-ins is over.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that will happen though is nobody on the show ever says we need to hold these callers accountable anymore. Because Kelby
Yeah.
did that one time, and then that's what allowed
amen.
C9 to make it to Sub Ice at World. So
Fuck, dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
So many regrets.
Kelby,
Yeah.
you need to flame him real hard right now about how TL
Nope.
will never make finals.
Yeah.
Nope. I think there's at least a 1% chance that will happen.
The old Travis
Yeah.
Gafford approach. You can't be wrong if you never say anything.
You know what? I've decided to plant in my front yard a bunch of hedges. All right, Mark. That's what I preferred garden option. Kush, thank you for the call.
Yeah. Thanks. It was awesome being on.
Have a good one.
All right.
All right, moving on to the next caller. Let's see, what do we got? Poro on Mars, Orta Lols, and It's Just Adrian. Thank you for the subs. You guys are all wonderful. Just a point out here, no one is in the third cheer box on the top of the Twitch chat. I don't know if anybody wants to check that spot out, but pinned up at the top, everyone would see your name. Dolan is here. Dolan, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Gainesville, Virginia.
Gainesville, Virginia. Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, sounds right.
Okay. What do you want to talk about?
Is weed legal in Gainesville, Virginia?
I don't think so.
All right.
That's our new first. That's like, instead of being like, where are you calling from? We're just
what's
like,
the
is
weather?
weed legal where you're from?
Look, it's what is this week is what Saturday, 420. Dolan,
Oh,
what do you
damn.
want to talk about on the show?
My hot take is that the League of Legends moderators are like kind of inconsistent with their rulings.
Mark, you
Yeah.
fucking rigged this shit, dude.
I didn't
And-
rig it. Someone called in, and this guy
Yeah.
actually put in some work. Hear him out.
I did, yeah, for real. So I think they're inconsistent, and I don't want to give the spicy take, but the backstory is that I was scrolling through Twitter after you guys had the show up, and I saw that Mark was kind of posting about how they didn't, they took down the post and they weren't taking him seriously. They wouldn't let it up or whatever.
For those that don't know, on our last show, Steve and Andy made $100,000 bet on the game, and that immediately climbed up on the subreddit because it is literally
should.
twice the size of the prize pool of the LCS finals. That's where we're at now, by the way. And and it was up there for a little bit, and then they deleted it because they said that bets are not related to League of Legends or something. I don't know. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, so I ended up just putting together like this. What I tried to be is like articulate and polite as possible, just trying to get like a healthy discussion going between me and just a random moderator picked off the side of the list. And I was just bringing up how I thought it was inconsistent because back in the day you would see like the Hotshot and Reggie hair dyeing bets, and that was always a big thing that would pop off on the subreddits. But how is that different from this? And then I also think it's something that's like it kind of births or strengthens the rivalry between Team Liquid and TSM, like something that's, in my opinion, sorely lacking. So like if it's something that perpetuates that rivalry, then why are we taking it down? How can you make an argument that it's not relevant to League of Legends? And then not even off topic, but in the same vein, like I think Thorin wrote an article and it was hosted on the site that was somewhere related with Richard Spencer, and they ended up taking it down because they didn't want a site, going to an article where Richard Spencer was there, which is just another, like, it just feels like we don't have any control over the content that we want as a community. It's just what they deem to be okay and what is not. And I just think that's kind of silly.
I'm not trying to make too much of a joke, but is Richard Spencer one of those aliases that people use when they're talking about him? Because it's Richard Lewis.
Yeah.
And
That's what I thought he was saying too.
I didn't know if it was one of those. Yeah, it's Richard Lewis, but I didn't know if it was one of those aliases where people called him Ricardo for a little bit. So they could talk.
yeah.
I think his Twitter handle is Richard Spencer. That's about how I know him. But I know he's like a provocative,
either way, whatever.
right-leaning,
He's
whatever,
a
like,
white
without getting
nationalist.
political. But yeah, okay, yeah.
Wait, what did you say?
Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
We're not talking about Richard Lewis.
Oh, we're talking. Okay.
We're talking about somebody else.
Oh, okay. I'm very confused then. Never mind.
Yeah.
Either way, it's
You probably just offended Richard Lewis, though, Mark. So
I
Get ready. He's
apologize.
coming for you.
I apologize in advance. I'm an idiot.
Yep.
That's my defense.
So anyway, sorry. Continue, Dolan.
But that's it. Like, and then he ended up responding to me saying, "Please do not private." I didn't even say please. He said, "Do not private message me." And I responded. I said, "Why? Why can't we have a healthy discussion about this?" And then he followed up and banned me. That was the extent of the conversation
He
that
banned you?
I was allowed to have. He actually banned me.
Can I handle this
I
one?
sent a
for all of us?
screenshot in chat, Travis, if you wanted to show the message that our friend here typed up, which was very polite and very nice and very thoughtful.
I'll link it in the chat, I guess. Actually, I don't have. It's not. You didn't
Yeah,
send it
it's
to
not.
me,
It's not a
so-
link.
Can
It's
I?
in-
I don't have. It's. There's no way to show this on screen. It's just giant.
Oh, you can't pull it up and then.
Well, it would just. It's like
Alright, well,
showing
now
a
I'm-
book page. Or something. Whatever, anyway.
Can I please just
Yes,
answer
go.
this? So first off, just to be direct to you. Sorry, what was your name again? Dolan. Yeah, the moderator is not going to engage in a one-on-one conversation with you about a moderating decision that they've made. The subreddit has how many followers?
2.7 million.
2.7 million. He can't engage in one-off conversations with every person that has a question or opinion about the way that he chooses to moderate the forum. Like, I get this shit when I moderate Twitch channels, and it's got a couple thousand people in there. So, like, it does not surprise me that it's completely reasonable that you would want to engage in a discourse with him. It's completely reasonable that it's not sustainable for him to engage in discourse with every person that messages him about this. The second thing is that the League of Legends subreddit has always, going back to, like, you know, fucking Travis and I days of, like, 2012, 2011, been extremely inconsistent with the ways that they choose to moderate. It will always be that way. It's not moderated by a group of, like, you know, one person. It's a collective effort. They change over time. Obviously, they have views and perspectives on things that are slightly varied, and it can't be uniform. It will always be this way. It's unfortunate, obviously. It sucks, just like the officiating in the NBA, except that actually has an impact on things. Yeah, it's just not going to change. It's going to always be shitty.
Well, so here's my take. One, the guy doesn't need to respond to everyone who DMs him. That's fair.
Yeah.
He also doesn't need to respond at all and could have ignored it instead of getting a shitty response. And then, to be fair to the caller,
And why did he ban you?
Yeah, the caller. I don't know why he banned you. Maybe you're leaving part of the story out. But then, if we believe the caller, he didn't need to ban him.
He banned him from the sub, or he banned him.
Banned me
from personally messaging?
specifically from League of Legends, yeah. And it was I'm being completely genuine when I say all I said was why can't we have a healthy discussion about this? And his follow up, he didn't respond. He just
So
banned
you
me. That
private
was his-
messaged him. He said, "Do not private message me." Then you said, "Why not?" And then he banned you from the subreddit.
And yeah, 100%.
Yikes. Well, if with that half of the story, it doesn't seem like a good note. But
Yeah, so like I agree with your main point, Kelby, about like there's a bajillion people who all have thoughts and opinions, and it's not their job to listen to every single person and respond.
Right.
But given that he is taking time out of his day to do that,
yikes.
yikes. So
I think to like, I don't know. I don't think that there's like a nice, neat wrap up that we can do to fix it. But I think that
well, so I actually have a take on that about like the wrap up, because I mean, a former mod or a current mod replied to my tweet and was like, "What's the point of this? You're not getting anywhere. You know, just flaming them." So, which is fair. You know, if you just want to vent, you're not really trying to fix the problem. So we can talk about.
Yeah. I mean,
What
you
were you
have the
gonna say?
right to bitch too. Like I say, it's not going to change, but everybody, every time this happens, has the right to bitch and scream about it until something hopefully does change. I've given up hope a long time ago.
Right. So for me, modding, yeah, it's a thankless position, you know, but just because like it's like a programmer, no one should notice you, but when they do, you know, that's where the problems are. And so like you can't expect people not to say anything when they notice things that they disagree with. And for me, it's because these decisions that they're making, like if I'm trying to think of like a relevant example, but like because these things that they're doing are negatively hurting the community, I do have a problem with it beyond just like, they took my content down. I think my content's relevant. It's like, this is something that like two team owners in the community decided to go onto a live show for no reason other than to try and generate hype around the community that they're a part of, and they make a gigantic bet. they're hoping to have a ripple effect, which generates more hype and buzz to the match that they're about to play in. And instead of the larger audience being exposed to this, because not everyone was watching us live, and then being able to discuss this hype moment, they never hear of it. And the net result is not only less hype for the upcoming match, but it's de-incentivizing your community leaders to attempt to generate hype. And that's where I start having a problem with it. And it's because they're following these rules, which, one, I looked at everything I could find about subreddit rules. There's nothing about bets that's strictly not allowed as far as I could find. If someone can find something and
You
wants
just decided
to,
it's not relevant to, it's not directly related. That's their argument. The problem is,
they
it's like,
decided.
Favorite fucking fallback.
Yeah,
well, they
that's-
decided, but it's not listed anywhere.
yes, but they say they decide. It's up to them to decide what is related and what isn't. And by the way, just to play devil's advocate, I don't think that they should remove that, but I will say, I really do feel like it's important that they have a rule that's about keeping things relevant to League of Legends. The problem is, I feel like, and this is not all League subreddit mods, but many of them are people who like moderating and they want to moderate, and so they find places to moderate, and so they are always overly heavy-handed with this stuff, right? Like,
Well,
it just creates these situations where it's like, no one in the right mind, like media outlets would cover this, like League of Legends media outlets would cover this bet, and everyone would talk about it, and it is a really big deal that is relevant to the game, and they have decided this is not relevant, and
right, and
it's just
I mean,
so
like,
nonsensical.
absolutely. And like, there's a lot of things. I actually like a lot of the things that the subreddit does, because it is actually a pretty good subreddit in terms of the content that does end up on there. Like, they have a lot of, like, one rule that's in there is like the copycat rule. If someone does like PM me a champion and I'll draw a shitty version of it, you know, like, if one person makes that post, what always happens in less well moderated subreddits is 50 people do the same thing, and they're basically copycat posts trying to get attention. And the subreddit has rules against that. And so I actually think a lot of the framework that the mods have is pretty good. It's like, when you start getting the gray area, and especially this relevancy rule, it just completely breaks down. And to me, it seems like they care way more about focusing some like nonsensical letter of the law than the spirit of the law. And this is, I think, you know, a very big problem for me. Is like, stop enforcing the letter of the law, which creates backwards interpretations of what is relevant, and enforce the spirit of the law. And a perfect example of this is Riot's LCS rulebook. They write out a shitload of rules, and they do their best to be fair and balanced, but they understand that there might be a potential unforeseeable circumstance that arises, and so they throw in a God clause that allows them to avoid being beholden to some bad ruling due to the letter of the law that they have written. And this, you know, is not something that's going to work everywhere in government and like things like that, but it works in smaller communities and things like that. So like, you could have a God rule, and to be fair, they don't even have these rules written up in a way that is like, every single time this is true, it must be banned kind of way. And so like, instead of acting like judges where they're trying to interpret their own rules to have positive outcomes, they're acting like parking enforcement, where they show up at rule violations randomly, you know, because tons of people break parking laws and don't get caught. And then sometimes you do, and it's really frustrating. And they show up and they say like, well, that's the law, so we banned it this time, and we're not going to undo it, as opposed to looking at like, nah, this would actually be way better if this wasn't banned. And so I think their approach to the gray areas is unbelievably wrong.
Yeah.
What's like the best good faith argument you could make for a case of it being removed? Like Travis earlier mentioned that he questioned the legality of the whole bet, or maybe it's like bad PR for League. Like,
I mean,
if you were to argue on their side, what would you say?
I don't think they should be talking about, like, they should be removing stuff that is illegal. Like, if it turns out, for instance, that a team general manager did some terrible things to a player whenever Renegades was in the LCS, I definitely think that story should be allowed on the subreddit. But I don't think, and so I don't think that they should be like trying to protect the community from any bad PR or something like that. I think the only argument that they can make is like, this is, if they get so ham-fisted on this, it's not directly related. It's like, okay, well, actually, then half the stuff on the subreddit should go away, because, like, if the only thing you can talk about is like, is Ezreal a better ADC pick than Kai'Sa in this specific situation? Like, what's the whole point of this esports thing? You know, like, that's not Why are you
Right,
having
I
any of
mean-
this content on there?
There's a lot of inconsistencies, which is, I think, the problem that frustrates a lot of people. Is
Yeah.
like no one's like Faker crying is somehow about old teammates is somehow relevant, but Kobe crying about the greatest accomplishment North America's ever had in the scene is not relevant.
Yeah.
It's like what? How are we splitting the hairs about exactly? And like at the end of the day, if something's like historic to the community, like the largest bet place, I would argue it should be there. I can understand the argument about not. They have a rule about not allowing gambling sites or sites that are promote or like content that is promoted by gambling sites or sponsored. I forget exactly what their wording is, and I can understand that because you're not trying to drive a young impressionable audience to gambling, but two friends shit talking and making a bet on a show is pretty clearly not like a gambling site.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's very much ambiguity there.
The number one thread on the sub right now is Jensen BMs Sven, which is not directly related to League of Legends. It's
And I don't want to take
exactly
it down,
the
to
same
be
kind
clear.
of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's just like they're as we've all been saying, they're extremely inconsistent. Like this is exactly the same kind of content that the bet would fall under. It's two very prominent personalities talking about things that are very relevant to the game, but it's not explicitly League of Legends.
Yeah. So I mean, my point would be, I would encourage the mods to come up with more concern for the spirit of the rules that they have written, and less about some way they have written them.
The only thing I would also say, by the way, is that later on, I posted the entire segment of
It was
Steve and
taken
Andy
down as
coming
well.
on the show. And it was, like, at that point in time, the vast majority of that conversation was not about the bet. But it still was them talking about the games the next day, etc., etc. Because they are so trigger happy, they removed it. And I sent them a message. And then I think like 45 minutes later or an hour later, they're like, oh, we reapproved it. Well, guess what? It's been dead. It's fallen. It's never going to go back up on the sub. And there's
Well,
content
also-
like that happens all the time.
Well, yeah. So if you kill content, there's like a window when something's rising, new or hot, that people will see. And if they kill it for an hour, it's never going to ever get on the subreddit, realistically. But additionally, in that thing, Travis, they said, oh, we could approve this if the title did not have 100K bet in there. But then apparently you're telling me they did reapprove it despite that, right?
Yes, they did reapprove it. It's just ridiculous. Whatever. We've
So-
spent enough time talking about it.
I mean, here's the final thing. Like, I think one of the reasons they try and stick to like the way they've written it so much is to avoid individual accountability, because they want to be able to follow rules that everyone has to follow, and it's not like this was my case and this was my jurisdiction on the case. You know, like I think that's actually the right way to go though, and it does lead to more individual culpability, but assuming you are bringing on good mods that you can trust, like, you know, you can have that back and forth over the cases, quote unquote, that they have decided to pull down or something. Anyways, that's my final bit. Be more like judges, less like parking enforcement.
Yeah. All right. Dolan, thanks so much for the call. Is there anything you want to say?
No, Mark, I appreciate your accessibility. Thanks for taking the time to read what I had.
Well, I appreciate you trying to be an active force in the community.
Have a good one, man.
Later.
All right, we've got one more caller to go. And we'll be wrapping up. Where are we? Where did I put this? Oh, Alt Overdrive sent $5 and said, on a similar note, back when they made the roster move mega thread and took down all the individual articles, I commented on the mega thread that I didn't like the mega thread idea. I got a bunch of votes and then was permanently banned from the league sub. I mean, if this stuff is true, that's pretty sketchy. Hands-free Hansel subbed Just a Po Boy, subbed Derpy Doorbell as well. Thank you to all of them. Peroni, is that how you say your name?
Perone.
Perone. Where are you calling from?
Modesto, California.
Modesto. Have you been on before? And did I make fun of Modesto at the time?
No, but I think I saw that episode, and
there's
Modesto's worth making fun of.
You have another Modesto person, and they're in your city, and they watch the show. What do you want to talk about?
So, I wanted to basically talk about how I feel like esports has, at least domestically, a big three brand problem, and my idea for basically helping to support more domestic brands, storylines, and engagement with the league is
Hello?
to reduce international competition.
Am I dead?
And,
No.
No.
Hi, Mark.
nope.
Sorry, continue.
Yeah, so to reduce international competition to a once every 2 or 3 years cadence, raise the volume of best of one games in a split, and centralize production of core sort of Riot Games Sports Center like content while distributing shoutcasting and sort of spot production to the teams.
So Riot would only in this situation. So one, international events would only happen every couple years.
Yep.
Then two, Riot's involvement in producing the shows or producing any content would only be like ancillary third-party content. And then the teams themselves would handle the running of the league.
Less so the running of the league and more so the actual production of day-to-day games. So what I'm thinking of is primarily if you raise the volume of best of one games, you end up with a lower variance regular season where you have better teams ideally coming out into the playoffs more consistently, but you also get the opportunities to build longer storylines. You get to more freely substitute in academy players and burgeoning talent because each game individually means a little bit less, and you get to through that develop a lot of local talent.
Twitch chat is not a fan of your idea, so make sure you don't read it because they're gonna. Nobody ever wants to hear longer splits and less international play. That is not going to be a popular platform to run on.
It's a huge like community backlash problem. Like I get that, but I think if you look at Doublelift saying that the regular split is super boring, like I think that
you want to add more best of ones to it.
I do, because what I want to see is I want to see characters like Vin Scully and Kruk and Kipe for the Dodgers and Giants respectively. I want to see teams put together some brand personalities that can represent them, build some engagement since we don't have geolocation to fall back on. I want to see more like basically from nothing to stardom stories come out, because right now we have Bjergsen, we have Doublelift. I mean, it doesn't feel like we have many folks who really come from like nothing and then reach stardom, unless you're talking about the super big names of esports, Caps, Perks, Faker. I mean, and then if you reduce international competition to like a World Cup sort of cadence, then you still retain the huge hype and it's an opportunity to display player skill, but hopefully you still end up with the domestic leagues winning something, meaning something. Because right now it feels like you win the domestic league to go to international competition.
So one, you say we only have 3 franchises people care about. You're forgetting the fact that Dignitas is returning. So that's going to give us
true.
4.
That's true.
I mean, that's a meme. Nobody actually cares about Dignitas.
Kelby, what's your take on all this stuff? I'll lead with you since normally.
No, dude, don't. When you first, I'm going to be honest with you. When you first started listing these out, I thought you were trolling. I thought it was like a joke that you were just like setting us up on, and I was like, dude, this guy's pranking us. But like, there are some things I'm willing to like have an open mind about. The one thing in particular that I think is a really bad idea, and you wouldn't necessarily know this, because like I assume you're not involved in like the business side of esports or whatever, but teams handling any level of production related to broadcast or anything like that. Is that what I'm understanding is your suggestion? Is that correct? Or
Yes, yeah.
No. Please God, no. They don't want to do it, to be clear. Like, those businesses are already fractured enough, and they're scrambling to find ways to justify valuations. Like, they don't want to tack on another business to their like radically over leveraged value proposition to investors right now. Oh, by the way, we're also now an esports production company and tackling this new facet. And this is good. Why do you want them to undertake it? Like, why don't you want Riot to do it?
Well, just to throw in one quick thing too, the fact that they've bought into the league in a lot of ways is them paying for production, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, because
Like they're buying,
Yeah.
they're buying in to fund the product. That
to
they
Mark's
want
point,
to
you can't just have like all the like. Okay, TSM, you supply the lighting crew, and TL supplies like
Right.
the features team, and like ultimately, it's almost the same per round where you would have all 10 of these teams have to pool their money to operate a production company that would produce this thing, whereas they've, as to Mark's point, they've given $10 million to Riot, who will act as the production company to produce this. In addition to being the league ops team and thing. So I'm not to Kelby's point. I'm not sure where the value is in having the teams handle the production.
Yeah. What are you looking to change? What do you want to have change, and why does the teams like being in charge now resolve that for you?
Yeah. So one of the things I want to clarify really quickly is that I'm not hoping to basically tear out the current LCS production. I've been to the LCS studio. I think they do a pretty great job. What I'm hoping for is basically more primetime airing of sort of individual brand content, and ideally personalities in esports that are tied to the individual brands. Because the objective I want to achieve is I want to not have to think really hard about who to root for. So it feels like if you want to be a really engaged esports fan, I feel like I need to root for TSM, C9, or Team Liquid right now. But I found when Clutch entered the league, I found their sort of Moneyball style messaging really appealing. But I never felt like it stuck. So I never felt like the brands got to really develop
So
an
you're,
identity.
So your point is the teams are not great at building their own brands.
Right.
So let's put them in charge of building the brand for the league as well.
Well, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're actually not looking for them to do broadcast stuff. You're looking for them to just produce more narrative content around their individual talent and team brands? Or am I wrong?
So pardon me if I didn't explain it very well, but sort of in between, I'd think of replacing Azael, Kobe, and Freak on the finals broadcast with a combination of team-sponsored broadcast talent, or alternating between in a best of 5 different team casters, like in the NBA or MLB when they rotate in a best of 5 or best of 7 playoff series. They go between each team's respective sort of broadcast talent.
Okay, does that extend to anything beyond including team talent on broadcast, or is it like...
That's most of it. If you have teams that basically own, like if you spread out, if you add enough best of 1s and you're adding extra volume, you might have, low priority games during any given week, and then the strength of a team's brand might be able to, you might be able to add a sponsor commercial spot or something like that.
We already had this though when we had Jet. He was a representative of TSM, and no, but I okay. So Mark, go ahead.
And please poke holes in this. Like I'm not attached to anything.
Well, so what I'll say is like the amount of on-camera talent that would be able to deliver an entertaining finals is pretty much limited to the Riot broadcast team right now.
And I would say that's only part of the Riot broadcast team.
Moving on, I think it'd be really hard to get multiple teams with their own people that you would want to listen to. And so, like, yeah, that doesn't sound appealing, as well as the fact that, like, I'm not sure that, to your point about what fans care about, I don't think someone's super going to care about their talent as much as they're going to care about the players. And, like, I'm a Doublelift fan, which we've heard a lot of people talk about. Like, I think that's partially just an intrinsic property of esports, and you can try and circumvent it a little bit by throwing in geolocation and other things to make people more team fans, but what's always going to draw people in is the players. And yeah, I don't know.
I will say, okay, so one thing I think that is fair is I do think teams should have access to the broadcast to try to promote their own content. Like if Golden Guardians wants to make like a 3-minute piece or something that's fun, there should be a slot in the broadcast where they can air that, because I do think that one thing that
How early do you start watching the LCS, Travis?
I know that on Sundays you guys air that stuff, but
Okay.
I don't watch it during that time, and nobody else does either. It's the same problem that the analyst desk has, where like the countdown is great, but I don't want to see the best analyst desk content before the games start. I want to watch it between the games. So I think front loading all this stuff is not as good as like finding places within the broadcast to place it. Because you
Yeah,
can.
but-
What?
Sorry, I was just gonna say you run into the same problem though, where like people are mostly there to watch the games. So if you delay the games, like I understand there's a commercial break that you can potentially slot this into, which is probably what you're suggesting, but that's still roughly.
I think if FlyQuest has a great video, I would rather watch that than hear you, High, and Crumbs go on about something from a 100T game.
Yeah, and I can understand that, but if you have 5 games and 5 post-game segments and you kill all of them and you give all 7 minutes of that time that is normally transition time, you've created 35 minutes, and assuming that you have 10 teams, you're putting out at most 7 teams.
So
5
not
minutes
everybody gets
content.
not everyone gets a spot on every day, but
Yeah,
I think
and they don't wanna make that much.
I think you can give them like, hey, Golden Guardians, we've got in week 4 we're going to give you this spot in the between game 2 and game 3. Create something for it, and it's subject to our approval, and go for it.
Yeah, I think I would love to sponsor more team content if they make good content.
I think they do now.
Some of them.
I think most of them do.
Oh, yeah, they're not.
And I think the other ones, if you tell them, look, you need to hit this quality bar, they will find a production company to do it. Or they can air
I
a
don't
Travis
think teams
Gafford
would.
interview with one of their players in that spot. I would also be okay with that.
Yeah,
I mean, some teams won't, and that's fine. They don't have
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Like the idea of running more team sponsored stuff to me is something I'm definitely not opposed to, and integrating it more into the broadcast. Like, hey, these guys are coming up next. Take a look at this piece that they just made as we go to break. You know, like that kind of shit sounds great to me.
Yeah.
That's also not really what the caller was talking about.
Where are we finding time for more best of ones, by the way?
Getting
not
rid of
having
international
international-
events.
Yeah. So you're okay. So you're just like is it still 2 splits? They're just longer splits.
So I'm thinking, and all of this premise is
Uh-oh.
based on a bunch of assumptions, but
Uh-oh.
basically thinking of having a couple games a night most days of the week, and you probably have anywhere between 36 to 48 games in a season, and then you basically you can stop at halfway for sort of your all-star event if you want to have the top teams go to an MSI or some sort of like domestic bracket tournament. You can seed them into that so that you can still get some of the tournament hype. And then at the end of the year, you can build up a lot of hype and focus on really solid domestic production of a finals. Because if we saw anything from the finals this weekend, like there's plenty of opportunity for those to be pretty hype.
I mean, you also saw from finals that there's plenty of opportunity for them to not be hype.
Very true.
Yeah,
So
I
I
just
don't
it's,
twice in a row.
it's hard
I don't
for
think
me.
if I'm a European fan, I don't want to watch another. I don't know, 8 weeks of the Origin clapping Europe, or excuse me, G2 clapping Europe before finally getting to international stage.
So here, I'm going to say this, which I've been thinking about doing a video on. I need to figure out the right way to do it. But I do know that there were considerations before the start of the split on a different format, and that the teams were talking to Riot about it, and that they ultimately, Riot, I think, opted not to go with it. But I do know that that format would have actually had like a little tournament or a little like bracket stage that would kick off the split, and then it would go into regular games for a little bit, and then there would be like a different structure, I think, to the playoffs, and it's actually just more like kind of best of fives and tournament format stuff rather than just like the long-ended best of 5 week by week thing. And I think that's actually much more interesting than
You're talking
just
about
adding more best of
Overwatch
ones.
League, basically.
I don't know what the Overwatch League. Overwatch League, I know it has these different stages, but I think this was different. It was like, yeah, it was just different.
I mean, tactically it might be different. Strategically, it sounds very similar, where they have stages with multiple like tournament-esque playoff-ish things.
Yeah.
Over the course of a season, right? This might sound dismissive, but I don't think we should be modeling ourselves based on baseball at all. I think baseball sucks.
Well, I think baseball's dying.
It is dying. It's objectively dying. And I don't want to do things modeled after baseball. That'd be about the last. I would look at the Puppy Bowl before I'd look at baseball. That's been most of your examples. So like, I understand that sounds really dismissive, but like, I think baseball is a chore to watch to most people.
Yeah, I think that's fair criticism. I think that what I'd like to see, regardless of the format or changes to international come out, is more sticky storylines, more players I can get really excited about engaging with, and ideally a wider, variety of teams I can get excited about supporting. Because I mean, you have someone come up like they did last year, like Blabber, who comes in and like the C9 from 10th to 1st got talked about a lot. Awesome story. But now we see Blabber Golden Glue, second place Academy Worlds. Like there's not, like, what happened to that story? Like it feels like there are a lot of threads that pop up and die off. And I don't feel like that's good for the longevity of the sport, because I really love esports. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Like that's the ultimate problem I'm trying to solve.
Ultimately, I agree.
Really...
No, look, I agree. I think that it is a pity that there are not more players and teams for people to care about. I think it's a problem. I think 100 Thieves was on a really good path, and unfortunately they had a really shitty Worlds performance and a really shitty Spring Split, and it lost them a lot of the progress they made. I think I look at teams like GGS and feel like they've made pretty big strides on making an interesting team and content, but I think there's still a lot to go. And I actually somewhat hope that the rumors about Clutch are true, because I think it would be nice to see that like org get a bit of a reboot. I think they're in danger of hitting old school FlyQuest territory in terms of like what are we doing here with this org.
Yeah, I mean,
don't think that, and I do think it'd be nice to see these guys have more of a brand presence on the LCS, because I do not think that right now, if you think about it, these orgs get any kind of brand presence on the LCS. They have to like generate that stuff off of Twitter and YouTube, and then like the interviews that are all kind of standardized on the broadcast. Mark, you disagree?
Well, so I didn't want to belabor this call too much longer. I would say there's plenty of opportunity for players. Like I think we should do more, but like we want interviews. We try and do the cooldown. Like we try and get cool interviews. People decline them all the time. We want people to be a part of our bits. We want people to be a part of Countdown. It could be better for sure. The other point I was going to make, Travis, was just in all those examples you just brought up, almost all of those are also tied to performance. Like, where did Blabber go? Well, Sven turns out to be way better, and so he's on a different team. Where did 100 Thieves go? Well, they turned out they started sucking balls.
No, I agree.
So, like, to me, the problem that esports faces just comes down to the fact that you're not geolocated. There's no reason for anyone to give a shit about your team beyond what you put forth in your performance and your content. And guess what? No one cares about your content when you're bad. So, like, that's the problem that you're trying to solve. And, like, I think it's important to recognize that that's just, like I was saying earlier, a property of esports in general.
Kelby, final thoughts on this?
How do you guys, Mark and Travis, and the caller, how do you guys feel about the length of the league season? I
think it's too long. I think
What?
it's too long.
Yeah, I think it's too long too.
Yeah.
And I think that it might help. I hadn't thought about it in this context until the caller brought it up. I wonder if a shorter season allows for a greater entrance period for new talent into the league.
I don't know if it does.
I don't know if it does or doesn't.
I don't know if it does, but I do think, I don't know. The league right now runs from the middle of January to the beginning of November. Like the whole league season.
Right.
Not LCS. Obviously it's shorter, but like that's so long.
Like you don't, if as a team, you don't have any time to even think about other players than what exists in the ecosystem. You're just going full stop, and then you have like a month and a half off.
Well, unless you are, well, you say that, but like Golden Guardians had most of last year off.
I think
But they're like prepping, like even in those prep periods. I mean, they don't get it off until what, September?
I think if you lose right away, you're done in either late August or early September. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, like.
But they also have like 3 months off or 2.5 months off in the middle of.
Yeah, but it's not the same in the middle. Because you're prepping for next split. Which is because you're still in that competitive season and hoping to make a push for.
Yeah, but you can try to find, and there's the whole academy system where like people can try to find. I mean, like Jack has done a good job of finding. For instance,
I think I would want to let the academy thing run a little bit longer to see if we start finding more talent, because I think it's actually done a decent job. Like Viper is a guy who like you kind of wonder if in LCS and the orgs for a long time have been way too passive about trying out solo queue one-trick talent, the way like Korea seems to take those people and just mold them. And I wonder if Viper ever would have made it in the LCS had the academy system not been created, or like how much longer it would have taken him to end up on a team, and how good he would have been. Because I think the academy system did him a lot of favors in that way.
The academy system, the new academy system, has clearly dramatically improved the velocity of new talent into NALCS, in my opinion. Like, we've seen so many more players than we used to.
Yeah, so I think it's already doing a decent job.
all right,
I don't know.
we got to wrap up the call. Either way, this is a really long, not by any of your fault. I think it's a good conversation to have, and one of the more meaningful ones we've had on the show in recent weeks, Brodin. But I think unfortunately we need to wrap up the show. So thank you for calling in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Shout out to Alienware for sponsoring the show, and thanks you guys for making great content. Appreciate being on the show.
And thank you, by the way, for coming in with an unpopular take, because Twitch chat like drives me crazy sometimes, because sometimes all they want to hear is like, we'd like more international tournaments, and it's like, okay, yeah, well, everyone's going to agree with that. But I think sometimes the more outside takes, or the more controversial ones, are the ones that spark more interesting conversation. So,
yeah,
thank you.
To do so. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, have a good one.
Dude, I don't even want to have international events anymore.
Really?
As an NA fan, what is the fucking point, dude?
I mean, Cloud9 went to semis last time. It was really hype. They proved you wrong.
Yes, that is true. Cloud9 was actually super impressive last Worlds.
Shut up, Kelby. Okay. Wait, what you wanted to talk about the Doublelift thing, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't want to just do like a solo conversation on it.
Well, what is the Doublelift thing? Because I might be out of the loop on what you want to talk about.
Yeah, you were you're grabbing a caller.
I mean, okay, I'll just do a conversation on it. I just think that. So Reggie made a tweet this weekend. What was Andy's tweet that I thought was so poetically ironic? They've never been able to win anything without buying talent. I think that tweet is fantastically ironic from Reggie's standpoint, because Teal didn't win anything until he gifted them Doublelift, which I think in retrospect, along with obviously like CLG kicking Doublelift, although I think that is more justifiable considering the team context, probably the worst roster decision that's been made in the history of NALCS. I talked about this at the time. I completely understood where Reggie, I think his intent was very noble. They were smashing NA, they didn't have competition, they were the most popular team, but he wanted to succeed internationally. Which, you know, like, I get it. That's the dream, and you didn't think that team was going to do it. They looked like they were a really strong team going to 2 Worlds, they didn't perform. The problem is that when you release that player back into your own competitive ecosystem, it's not like you're just kicking him and he goes out and he goes away and you don't have to deal with him anymore. You've now given your competition one of your most valuable assets to compete against you, which obviously, and I said at the time, like, this could really bite them in the ass, and clearly it really fucking bit them in the ass, because Peter went on to win 3 splits in a row. And to just say that, like, Steve bought their results is not true, because you gave him the catalyst for this team. Team Liquid doesn't get these other players without Peter. You know that in the offseason, big stars like Bjergsen and Peter pull other talent to their teams. It's a big reason why it's not just a money thing. People sign because they want to win and because they want to play with certain players as well. Not only that, I think it's very funny that he, as a business person, would say that Steve's willing to invest in his organization is one of the reasons that they're succeeding and he isn't. Are you not able to raise as well? Are you not monetizing your brand as well? Do you not have as much faith in League and you just don't want to invest in the same way? Are you calling yourself out there? Like, it's just really, really weird. So,
well, okay, so here's a little context.
Sure.
Before they went on stage, Brodin told me this, that because Brodin was in the like control room or whatever at the Hotline League live thing, and I guess Andy and Steve were talking, and they were asking people in the room, like, what extra things could we shit talk? Like, I need more things to shit talk on, and Andy's like, the only thing I can think of is saying, well, he has to buy success, and so I would give it a little bit of a great assault, because I think that it's just like Andy's trying to come up with something for like the entertainment, because these guys get it, right? Like, they know that when they make a 100K bet that like they're adding hopefully extra viewers to the broadcast and extra watch hours and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's part of the reason why he does that stuff, and it plays in well to like the TSM fan story, right? It's like, oh, we're like the real OG org, whereas like they sucked until Steve is got the money, you know. And so I think that's part of the reason why that goes out there, just to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But your point is still fair.
And it was very effective. Like, it motivated me. I saw that tweet. Oh, goddamn. I hope Team Liquid wins. You know what I mean? So it was certainly effective. I just, I think that like it gets holes in it very quickly if you like actually take it seriously.
Right. Yeah, I think it's just you're reading too far into a throwaway meme tweet. But to the larger point,
right?
This is more just hypothetically speaking.
Yeah.
And I think I know what you're gonna say, but let's say Team Liquid goes to MSI and chokes and doesn't get out of groups.
Yeah.
Worlds comes around, and TSM has a performance akin to C9 last split, or last Worlds, where Team Liquid's the more hyped team going in. They win summer split on their way in, but then they flounder out in groups again. But TSM with Sven and this new lineup actually outperformed the Worlds. Is that potentially worth it in your mind, given that like the catalyst for all of that was potentially letting Doublelift go, and he has continued to choke, in air quotes, on the international stage?
So I've said it before, and I think that it still is the same. I think it only matters if you make it to finals. I don't think semifinals is enough for NA.
I think it depends on the year. C9 making it to semifinals last year was enough for NA, I think, last year.
No, because there were 3 out of 4 teams were international teams.
I mean, it still added a ton of hype for North America. Like, you think the fans it's like the same as if we only made it to quarters? Or if we didn't make it out of
I
groups?
just don't think that it really matters, because you weren't even in the final game, dude. Like, you're not succeeding internationally.
Yeah, but it shows progress, right? And it's the storyline hype of like Cloud9, who people thought weren't going to make it out of groups, made it to semis. Like, that's the entertainment factor, right? Like, that's the dream story where it's like, wow, we didn't think this could happen, and look, we've got these guys who showed up when the main guys got benched halfway through the summer split. Like, I think that's I think it depends on the split. I get it that we want to go further, but I think you're not giving enough credit to that type of storyline, those types of moments.
And like I said, this is just my opinion as well. I think it's indicative of progress if NA does it again this year. But if it's a one-off year, whatever.
Where there's a lot of fucky stuff going on elsewhere.
I think if I was Reggie, and I'm not Reggie, if my team makes it to finals, then I wouldn't personally agree, but I could see how that would be correct for him because they'd already won domestically a bunch. You know what I mean? And if really success at Worlds is the thing that matters most, although he said winning, then I guess that, you know, it's not justified. In my personal take, and again, I said this before, like, they had such a fucking lock position on North America, and not just for competitive results, but for popularity. That team was by far GOAT roster NA for popularity and success. They were not getting touched. And that's so valuable from not just like obviously the competitive narrative, but building your brand and from a revenue standpoint.
Sponsorship deals and all the stuff you get with it.
It's too risky to let those people go, I think. Like, you're obviously not as great as you possibly potentially could be, but to let those people back into the competitive ecosystem.
Well, the two things there. One, do you give any credit to Andy for sacrificing, because he knew that Sven and Mythy coming to the team was not going to be better than what he had from a branding perspective. Like,
right.
You could make the argument, well, it's kind of noble that you gave up business value for like your drive to be competitive.
Right.
And the other thing I would say is it's not until this split that giving up Doublelift really affected that team. Like, it wasn't like they didn't make it to Worlds last year because Doublelift prevented them. They didn't make it to Worlds because they had a shitty roster.
Yeah, but they had a shitty roster because they blew their amazing roster up.
Yeah, but you're talking about it in the sense of letting Doublelift back into the ecosystem and him being on a competitor and what that does. Now you have to compete against him. But none of that made sense because even if Doublelift hadn't been on TL last year, then there's a really good chance they still wouldn't have made it because the roster was the issue. This split, I agree with you, because this split, Doublelift literally cockblocked them for making it to MSI.
Yes, but the fact is still that, like, that second part that you're talking about only becomes a consideration if you fuck up the first part, which is you blow up your competitive roster. Like, so yes, there's double negative impact. And I agree with you, and I said as well, I think that Reggie's intent was very noble in his aspiration, that he wanted to succeed and really do what no North American team had ever done before, which is win Worlds. I just, you know, and I have zero faith in the NA region internationally. That's not going to change until it does change. I think it's too much of a pipe dream to give up all the realistic business value that goes with the position that they had.
Yeah. Mark?
Cool. No, I figured that's what Kelby was going to say, was that, like, even if it paid off 2 years down the road, the 2 years to get there, you probably lost a shitload of money.
I just want to make an announcement. Now that the split is done,
The show is over.
and the show is over,
I can go.
I want to. Oh, interesting. I want to say, listen. It's time to start looking forward to our summer split, and I want to throw my weight behind my excitement around the roster that I know is going to do really well. 100 Thieves, baby. I'm on board. Next year, let's Summers, we got them. All right? You guys know me. I'm a huge 100 Thieves fan. I'm so happy to have this 100 Thieves jersey. And I'm ready to go. It's got 19 on the back, baby. All right? You have to take what isn't given, as I always say. And
Did you buy that, or did you finally get in on the getting free merch line?
I
can answer this question.
Here's what happened. At some point in time, I was asked, who's my favorite team by somebody at Riot. And I was like, I don't have a favorite team, so what should I say? And so then I said 100 Thieves, ironically, since everybody thinks that I flame them. And then We Are Nations sent me this lovely 100 Thieves jersey, and now I own it. And I had it throughout half of the the.
Why would it be ironic if you did like them? If you didn't like them, though.
That's because now I have a jersey of a
Team you
team
don't
that
like.
everyone thinks I hate. That's why it's
Because-
ironic.
No, that you do hate. That's why it's ironic, because it's true.
Yeah. Oh, yes, but I just it's based off of the meme from the show, Mark. Rocket
No, I'm just
mortgage,
saying-
baby. All right. This when I buy a house in LA, 30 years from now, I will use Rocket Mortgage. All right. We can wrap up the show. Mark, you have anything you want to shout out?
No, my cat's coming over. Like, you've had enough. You've had enough of this fucking show. Talk to me. Pet me. Look at him.
Kelby.
I just want to say thanks for having me on again. It was lots of fun. If you guys are maybe like on the fence about the Chainsmokers, I would say their Ultra 2019 set. Travis, what's going on with the cams? Their Ultra 2019 set. You know, I was a little skeptical about it, but I've given it like 5-6 listens now, probably all the way through, and it's so clear to me that like they still are way better than all the other EDM producers in the world when like they're doing their core competency, which is just putting together fucking shit that slaps, lit sets, guys. All right, but when Drew gets on stage and he wants to sing, let's just be honest, you're not a vocalist, okay? Step away from the microphone, put professionals on those tracks, get back to mixing, creating those records, producing those beats, you know, where you're good, where you really blew up at. Stop doing this pop shit, please. Come back to making EDM music. That's all I want from you guys. And I respect your creative license to produce whatever music you want. You've clearly gone down this road, but like there are parts of this Ultra 2019 set, and the closed Ultra, it's an hour and a half long, that are just fucking amazing. Like they do so good, but it's just like then they do parts where they go into like their pop stuff, and it's just like, oh, it's so rough. It's a really really love-hate experience for me.
Okay. I go.
But I think that if you guys haven't checked out the Chainsmokers, it's a good set to check out. Maybe go give them a peep. Tell them to unblock me on Twitter. That would be great.
Thanks so much, everyone, for watching. Thank you to Alienware. Thank you to my favorite team, 100 Thieves, baby. Hoping to get some of that 100K the next time that goes out without any FTC disclosure. You can check out this show online. We air usually Mondays at 8, and there's a podcast that goes out as well. I'll catch you guys later.